So, what's up, people? Welcome to another episode of Loading Screen. Jin's MIA right now. I think he partied too hard last night, so we're gonna be doing this without him unless he jumps in. See. So this week we got returning guest Ramos, who's on here last time. Everyone in the Monster Hunter community probably is aware of Ramos. He's everywhere. And then back again for like the third time, we got Asterisk Ampersand, our local Capcom hater and modder, and yeah, and this is the reason why Capcom hates me too. What's up, Aster?
Hate Capcom. I hate a section of Capcom, which is probably like I hate a lot of Capcom now that I think of it.
Yeah, I was like, it's a pretty good amount of it.
I mean, I'm on a first name basis with their legal department now.
Cool.
They know you by name.
That's scary.
Depends on what country you're in.
Well, now I'm within the places where it starts to matter.
Yeah,
I used to live in
where laws actually exist.
He's that deep in. Jesus.
But I mean, like so far of all of the DMCAs that Capcom has given me, I've challenged every single one except one, and Capcom has not contested my challenges of all of them. So I'm on the clear. I only have one strike now. I went down from like 10, and now all of them have been like taken out because they were illegitimate.
Yeah, they've ignored mine too. They DMCA'd 2 of my videos, and they haven't done anything about it, so I got those clear finally. It's still stupid that they give you like DMCAs, and then like even if they don't do anything, you have to wait like 3 months for it to fall off.
Yeah, and at that point, the video no longer matters, so they get what they wanted.
Yeah.
I think that's the strat.
Yeah, I know, but they're abusing the system because they're DMCAing shit that they don't own.
Yeah, but it's not the only company that does it. It's
no,
like,
I know everyone does it. It's a really dumb system.
It could be worse. Like it could be not Capcom. It could be a random guy can DMCA your video and get a share of the revenue while you contest it.
Yeah.
And even if you get in the clear, like you don't get the money back. Like he does.
And there's no punishment on their end.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I guess I'm lucky that I'm too small for that kind of stuff to happen.
Well, I mean,
to me.
you don't do anything to get DMCA'd, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Not really.
Yeah, like they DM stupid shit like modded Monster Hunter videos. Like when I was playing Rise on Ryujin, they DMCA'd my video for that. And then my GU video with 60 FPS on modded cats, they DMCA'd that one too. Like really?
Wait, but I think those were in an emulator, right?
Yes, they both were.
Yeah, that's probably why. Because they haven't DMCA'd modded content from you. Just the emulator
just
ones.
Emulated content. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten like I'm not that big, and I've gotten like DMCA'd by Capcom on Twitter repeatedly.
Well, here's how I know it's personal, because I know other people, and me and Titus have talked to other people who do YouTube videos doing the same shit, like Ryujin videos and modded videos and like 60 FPS emulator videos and stuff, and they're still active with no DMCAs or nothing. So, yeah, and they're a lot bigger. Like, Busad or Blue Screen of Death. This is a YouTube channel. They have videos with hundreds of thousands of views showing that shit. And they never gotten DMCA'd.
They probably have your name. So, one of the things that we got from the leaks is like how Capcom tracks community members and community engagement. And there's a Word document with tweets just copy pasted from Twitter into a gigantic table. And it's the randomest comments ever. It makes no sense, and it's just a file sitting there. We know they have PowerPoint presentations for convincing people that Pet the Dog was like a worthwhile investment. Like someone went with a PowerPoint to say like this particular Twitter channel, we should give the game to that guy because it's gonna be super profitable in terms of marketing revenue, in terms of what you get back. And they DMCA'd me for pasting the first slide of the PowerPoint where it was basically like, yeah, they paid a guy to do the Pet the Dog thing with Rice.
I'm not surprised. They didn't want that shit getting out. But it's like, well, yeah, it costs them nothing because it's a digital fucking asset. They just, here, have this, and then you get like views, basically.
I mean,
exposure.
even if it's a cartridge, Capcom doesn't really pay for most of marketing for Rise. Nintendo was doing it.
Oh, that's why they're pissed off.
Big Daddy Nintendo's after. Does like that.
Yeah.
With how much they hate you, fam, I would have figured you owed them money or something, or you probably slept with one of their girls or something. It's personal.
No, they are a lot more petty than that. It literally just because I talk about mods and hang around with Aster, and is why they pretty much hate me. That's literally it. Because Capcom just hates when people touch their stuff.
Guilt by association.
Yeah, basically. So, yeah. Oh, I forgot to talk about drinks. I don't think Ramos, are you drinking anything from this?
Yeah, I got my coffee, but I spiked it, so that's what I'm going for. And then my
go ahead.
Pikachu mug.
Nice. I was drinking a mimosa, but now I gotta switch to wine because I'm out of mimosas. And Aster is not drinking because he has to save his liver, because apparently the Netherlands is like America 2.0. So.
I mean, the Netherlands is America 0.5. America was settled by United Kingdom Protestants that went to the Netherlands and said, like, the Netherlands is too liberal, we want something more conservative, and then crossed the sea to get away from here. And they probably brought all of the grease and liquor over there.
It started from the Netherlands, and like, that's the stuff we want to keep. We're bringing it over here. And sugar.
All of the sources of diabetes.
Yeah. All of the sins of man. Let's just take it over here.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
We will make our new country without blackjack and hookers, but with more sweets.
Oh yeah.
Well, and then they made Vegas, and then it's just like, here, we're gonna do it with blackjack and hookers over here. So there's actually a fair bit of stuff we can talk about this week, because there was the whole Nintendo Direct, and then a lot of Monster Hunter stuff going on. But before we dive into all that stuff, Aster, what have you been up to? Because I mean, I know you moved, and I was just curious if you're still working on anything, or if you're interested in working on stuff, or learning stuff, or doing school stuff, or.
So, like, it's been like a year, and in that year, like, a shit ton of stuff happened. I started one master's program, then I moved to another one here in the Netherlands because of political reasons.
Communism sucks.
Communism sucks. Then I finished one of the biggest projects I took in terms of like just software development. Like it was a colossi of software, which was also for modding, which is the animation editor.
Oh, cool.
That thing was like in a year in the making, and I finally like cleared most of it. Right now it's coming out of pre-alpha. It's literally missing like 2 tutorials, and that thing is gonna be public.
Are you gonna have it like on GitHub or something?
Yeah, as always, everything I normally make ends up in GitHub. That's an animation editor for World, which was it's one of the probably the last things that we were missing in terms of visual formats, because we already had like texture, we had models, we had special effects. Now we have the full plethora of animations. Then I mean, I've always got Ice going.
I'm working on it again. I haven't abandoned it.
I do not see your name on commits.
No.
You say you're working on it, but I haven't seen a single piece of your work yet.
A 4-hour stream the other day of me just working on the bowgun stuff. I'm trying to balance things. I'm trying to nerf things. I'm trying to finish the tables. I got all the tools from Arati. I'm working on it again.
Like Ice has been a project since the start of Iceborne. It already has 1 year and 9 months around.
Yeah, it's been a long process.
It started with Arati, then I joined, then Fem started Femborn inside of Ice. Then Moon Bunny got super active. He cleaned a lot, like he was the organizing force behind getting Ice from ragtag bunch of mods on a folder into a proper project. I helped with the architecture for developer, for DevOps. We've changed so much from the original project, which was just you grab this zip file and you throw it into your native PC. Now we have my god, we use a special save file just for Ice. We load plugins from a different folder. We load native PC from a different folder. Ice now ships as a chunk instead of just as a mod.
I don't think the chunk one's out yet. I think it's...
No, it is.
Oh, it is? We are on chunks now?
Yeah, it's already on chunk mode.
Oh,
the last 3 releases have been on chunk mode. We now have auto versioning. We've got like the entire Discord set up for automation of publishing of changes. We have like the change tracker on Trello. We also have the isolated multiplayer. The I'm working on the next on the first content update because part of the plan is having the changes that we are making to the weapons to balance and whatnot, and then also adding new content because since we are isolating multiplayer, we now can actually add content into the game, like new armors or new weapons, or at least for the first update, it's going to be new pendants and a new quest for the pendants, so that we can say that Ice has more updated content than Rise.
Yeah,
Which isn't like, it's not hard to make, but
well, but we've known that forever, that adding shit to Monster Hunter is not hard to make.
Well, in the case of Ice, part of the thing is that my new big project is a Monster AI compiler, because editing Monster AI required editing files by hand, which was super tedious, and even the experts in it like take a long time to make changes because it's manually setting bytes on a text file, which is a horrible way of editing monster behavior. My plan is to write a compiler so that we use a simplified programming language for defining the AI and making a decompiler so that we can convert the monster AI files into this new language, and then from this new language back into monster AI files. And with that, like introducing modern concepts in programming, such as like modules and headers, things from modernity. And by modernity, I mean the 1980s.
Doesn't have.
Yeah, for some reason the THK file that they use don't have. Which actually was a discussion I was having with Fan yesterday. Yesterday I went all the way to like 6 a.m. and that's where the last drop of alcohol in my stash died.
Gotcha.
We were researching the AI functions, and one of the things that we've known for a while, which is that empty framework is not something that Capcom owns. They made it, but it has a ton of software from a ton of different packages, paid packages. So it's like their main engine is not properly theirs. They cannot share it around because there's part of it which are licensed by other companies. Some of those companies no longer exist. So it's not like they could even get permission from all of them, because some of them you cannot get permission from a corpse.
Is that why they made a new engine finally? They just couldn't do anything with theirs?
Well, it's part that. Yes, that was from the leaks. We know that was one of the driving forces for them to develop Ray Engine, which was empty framework is old, and even when it's had major updates, like gigantic, Monster Hunter World is version 3.0. It's literally the only game in existence in version 3.0, and it was like they added Speed Tree, they added Havoc, they added a lot of modern components. One of the things that was listed within their internal communications was that empty framework always had this issue, which is that if Capcom wants to subcontract something, they cannot give the subcontractor the engine
because they can't license out all the parts.
Yeah, and they cannot license out the tools. So if, for example, for models, it's not that much of an issue because like they give the work out and then they get some model files, and it's pretty standard, and they still have to convert it to their internal format, but it's still a model. But for AI, for example, it's much more complicated because like you can try to subcontract the monster AI, but how does that interact with the internal engine when you're trying to call functions that belong to the game?
Well, so we know how that works out because the AI has been fucking shit.
Yeah, and you can notice, for example, in the AI files that you can tell when a different developer works on a different monster because the way that they distribute the function calls and whatnot is completely different. You can pretty easily tell when one guy has written more than one monster because you start seeing the patterns.
It's also in the same languages, there's like 3 different languages that they're using, right?
For AI, no, but it's more like the organization-wise of how they do things. If they are reusing functions or if they are redefining them in every single file, if they superload one particular file with functions and then just call them from it versus like having them spread around where they should be. We also get and we knew someone within Capcom development like describing how the development process for Monster AI was. And we know which monster he did because he got super defensive when they were criticized.
What? I'm not aware of this.
You don't remember what happened? So
wait, it wasn't Hex, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like how the reason we know which monsters he made is because Van Op said one of them was shit, and he got super defensive about it not being shit.
Gotcha. It was Nightshade Pow, right?
No. It was Van Op said Acid Glavinus is garbage.
It is garbage.
Hex, yeah, and Hex was saying like, no, the monster is amazing because it has patterns that you can know in which state he is, and you can predict him. And Van Off's answer was like, yes, you can predict him, but you can do jack shit about, like, I know what he's gonna do. I have no response to his ability to yeet to Narnia on command.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he's in counter stance, what the fuck can, like, okay, I know what he's gonna do. I can read him like a fucking samurai movie. But there's nothing 90% of the weapons can do.
Yep, because he attacks too fast and he does multiple attacks that hit half the fucking area.
And then he yeets himself 20 miles away from you, even when he has end. Like, yeah.
Sounds like your average LS user. Huh.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm really interested in the AI stuff because that's one of the things I've been really wanting for Ice is AI changes. Not like, completely new AIs, but just like kind of doing like a change from like G rank, high rank G rank where, they get new attacks or they change some of their patterns up. I just want stuff like that for Ice to make it look different, where monsters have a couple different attacks or do different patterns. And then now that you got this AI editor going, hopefully Vanderus comes back and then helps me with a bunch of monster AI.
I mean, Vanderus never left. It's just that
I know, but he's been having fun with his story stuff. That's been a treat to enjoy. He just wasn't really interested in doing Ice stuff because, it's a huge fucking pain in the ass. And
our development philosophy is different from the sort of way he normally operates. Ice is much more, at this point, we're almost corporate. We have like distribution channels. We have the centralized repo. We do change tracking. We've got Trello board with to-dos. We've unified our input channels. We've basically become a software development company with like 2.5 members.
Well, I mean, some fucking indie dev studios are like that. No.
But like, it was in a way inevitable just because of the amount of files we touch now. Mm-hmm. If we were working just on our local native PCs, Ice would have, at least personally, I would have stopped touching Ice like a long time ago, just because it's not sustainable to be working like that. Mm-hmm. Which I mean, that's part of. I mean, I'm biased because I wrote all of the dev tools that we use. Mm-hmm. Things like the staging loader and the distribution manager, which are the things that allow us to convert multiple folders and files into this one chunk that just magically works, except when it doesn't.
It's always a fun time.
Yeah, and debugging those issues has been fun. And on the other hand, like the ability that we have now to make changes into the game with knowledge that things will, at least the moment it goes from development into testing, you shouldn't be worrying that like files have sneaked in from your own personal copies.
Right, you're not gonna fuck something up.
Yeah, it's something that we need the moment that we're working on a project of the size of Ice.
Neato. I'm really excited. It feels so weird going back to World after playing, not World for like 2 years. But I'm really excited to get back into it because there's not really a whole lot else going on for the next year as far as Monster Hunter stuff goes. So I'm happy that everyone's actually, even more people are interested in Ice since, Kent has been streaming it and other people have been getting back into it.
Yeah, and like Kent streaming did, so we were working on Gin Court for most of the development of Ice since the beginning, because at the time it made perfect sense. Like Ice was basically started by Aradi, then I became interested and I also hopped in, and it made sense to have it there because we needed testers and speedrunners were a good source of testing and of change input for changes. But over time, what happened was that when Kanta started streaming, there were like 1,000 people joining Gin Court just for Ice, and we realized that we probably needed a separate Discord just to track Ice development and not drown Gin Court with
people
with people that just wanted to download Ice.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a Korean streamer started streaming Ice, and he also and you can see like the list of members joining Jin Core is
It's just
like
all Korean names.
Yeah, it's all Korean names, and then it's all Kanta names, and you can tell what days Kanta was streaming Ice because that they were like 60, 70, 120 people joining just for Ice.
Random question about that. Do we have anyone that reads Korean that could actually like read the input from the Korean Ice players?
Crowley.
Oh, is he still around on there? Okay,
I'm not sure if he's still active, but we can like if the Korean players were giving input, we could read it.
Okay. That
Jin joined and left.
I was
yes.
Jim for a moment. Yeah.
Jin, god damn it.
He made his act of presence.
Yeah.
He got excited hearing about Ice and he wanted to join.
Well, I can't really go back to Discord messages, so someone yell at Jin.
Yeah, I'll do it.
In here. With a drink in hand. So since we're kind of like still working on Ice and whatnot, we've got like about a year to work on stuff before anything else happens to, you know, pretty much take us away from World. Because obviously Sunbreak's coming out. Aster, I'm just curious, did you play Rise at all, or did you?
Yeah, I played through the entirety of Ice up until the Valstrax patch.
On the scale from 1 to 10, what do you rate Rise?
I have a hard time rating Rise for the same reason. Like my opinion is that if I give an opinion of Rise, it's gonna be incomplete. Because there's not enough content in the game to fully form an opinion on what the mechanics they've added into the game are.
That's pretty much everybody's consensus.
Yeah, it's just not enough to do.
The content and the platform that is in.
Well, and that's my biggest complaint. It's not so much the game. A lot of people don't like the game. It's not the game for me. It's the Switch. Playing on the Switch is a nightmare.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, sales-wise, the majority would disagree in terms of like Rise has sold better than World.
Really?
Rise in console has sold better than World in console. That was expected, in fact. In the leaks, it's even hinted. Keep in mind that like 1/3 of World sales were Japan for console.
Yeah.
So Rise was just like a go game for, like, I mean, it's called for the Japanese people. Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I know. It's a yokai Monster Hunter game on a portable system. That's like that's their market. That's
yeah, and
not only that, the Switch is mobile, which is what they love. They love to take it on the go with the PSP and then with the Switch and 3DS. It was bound to outsell regardless. It's just how active it is.
Like, yeah, they could have made like the game just be an empty cartridge and it would have outsold World. Because the average Japanese person's home is smaller than a gaming PC.
Yeah.
And not a lot of
PC gaming is... Yeah.
But speaking of Rise, you want to transition to what's going to happen next year with it?
Well, so I'm actually just curious because I haven't heard Astra talk about Rise all that much. So Rise on PC is supposed to come out in like January or February, sometime early. And then obviously we get Sunbreak at August 30th or August 31st, whatever the last day of summer is, because that's how Capcom does their timelines. I'm just curious, Astra, like, do you feel like there's going to be even enough people that are like interested in Rise to play it when Sunbreak comes out? Because like nobody's playing it right now, and then like a year later, it's just like a little expansion. Do you think it's gonna sell well, or will it play well, or I don't know?
We have the Capcom expected sales number for Daybreak.
What's that like?
On the other hand, like that's the weird thing. For example, the Capcom schedule for when Sunbreak was gonna release was Q4 2022, which is Japanese Q4, which is actually the first quarter of 2023, fiscal quarter. But they are releasing it earlier by around like if they release in August, it would be 2 quarters early. More
I'm so mad that you told me that, because how much do you want to bet it's going to be like a shitty expansion, and then they're like, here's our roadmap with all the content we're adding, which is just the cut stuff so they can get it out early.
Like if you look at the things that they had announced for I mean, not announced, sorry, the things that were leaked for Sunbreak, they were super ambitious. They were saying like 5 new areas, 20 to 30 new monsters. Every weapon gets new silk binds. They were super ambitious in terms of
this was
their
like a G-Rank expansion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is the G rank expansion, but they
Well, World added, or Iceborne added like 25 plus monsters to the game too.
In one area, but I'm wondering they're
why
gonna
not?
add enough to break my Switch. Break it, Capcom. Just add stuff to it.
Well, it doesn't matter because it's coming out on PC at the same time. So, I mean, I'm just wondering if the interest is there, and if like, because they didn't do a whole lot with Rise, and there's no end game to do with Rise. I'm just wondering if this is supposed to be their fix to that, or if this is going to be an actual, DLC expansion with other shit to do. Because if it's just, if it's just like G rank, but there's still no new like monster types, like monster types is a weird word, because like other games we had, Tempers the farms, or Furious monsters and like
Tears
stuff, and other crap like that. If this is just a G rank expansion with some more tower defense, like nobody's gonna fucking care.
I mean, people are gonna care. It's just that it's not gonna live for long. People will buy monsters. Like
Me.
we can say whatever we want. We're still gonna buy that shit.
Yeah,
like
I know.
I
We are.
Rise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna do it for sure.
We'll be right there. I hate this game. And when you...
But that's how Monster Hunter people are.
Like, yes, you can record yourself with a hammer destroying your Switch cartridge, but you still bought it. Capcom doesn't care. I mean, Capcom kinda does care because we know that they have studies for marketing that they do for this shit. So at least they care, and we know they have a Microsoft Word document with tweets. So they had spies on the Dauntless Discord, so they kinda care. But on the other hand, like from a sales-wise perspective, they already got your money.
Yep, they did, and they'll continue to get our money. Is that Jin? Okay, so we're good to continue. So we got Jin in here now. Yay for Papa Jin. So we were just talking about just kind of like Daybreak or Sunbreak, whatever the fuck, our new vampire monster hunter game that's coming out. And just kind of trying to see if the interest is going to be there for the game at all, which
it will be. It definitely will be. All of us, ourselves included, who even get a little turned off on it later on. We all love it whenever a new one comes out because we always hope for the best. I mean, we like Monster Hunter at its core, right? I mean, all of us, even Aster, who makes jokes all the time, he literally spends days in the dark just figuring out the math behind it because of how interested he is in the game. If that doesn't tell you that there's a core of like good stuff there, like then you're missing the point. Like I think that's probably why a lot of us get so passionate in our responses, and sometimes viewers think that like we're talking maybe a little bit too much off the jaw because we really want this game to be really, really good. When you look at like how close it is to like greatness, it's odd that you would fall so short so many times across so many different iterations when you've got so many people telling you what you need to do to fix the game. I mean, nobody enjoyed Clutch Claw. Like we can go through the entire thing, right? Nobody enjoyed that. Nobody was like, hey, let's add this, let's keep this in. And then they kind of nerfed it and removed it for Rise, but then gave us this other, I don't want to call it like a time sink for a fight, but like from what I understand, like in Rise and what I was doing when I was doing all the speedruns, I was just constantly waiting for the cooldown to refresh, just so I could use my new wire bug move over and over and over again.
Rise running is waiting for wire bug attacks. So
well,
yeah, you're right.
And get your attacks interrupted because you had to mount the monster right there and then.
Yeah, I think the execution that they had was a little bit flawed. I get what they wanted to do. They didn't want combat to just be run up, hit something, and run away. You know what I mean? So they wanted to add another layer of depth, which I'm cool with. I'm fine with adding more mechanical input stuff because it makes it more fun. However, the execution, like I was just said, a little while ago, it fell flat because it's arguably the same thing as Clutch Claw. A little more intuitive, more fun, more I'd say even well, no, because it's a different parallel and it's better, right? Like you've got Clutch Claw here, which was just a dead end of like there's no way you were gonna make that good. Then you've got Wire Bugs over here, which it could be good, but it's not quite there yet. You're never gonna make fucking Clutch Claw interesting. But Wire Bugs, like if you increased the threshold on it or something, or like there was like another bar or meter that like built up based off of your attacks or something. I don't know. They're close with it, making it, you know, interesting, but I still feel like they fell short in Rise. So unless they do something more in the expansion, like, so what would that look like? What's a tangible change that I would enjoy for combat? I guess if they upped the cooldown or removed the cooldown based off of gear, like maybe that would be like a gear skill set. Like I wouldn't have cooldown on my wire bug moves. Maybe I don't know how that would impact.
Oh, cool. So
the
longsword
combat.
Could just spam more helm splitter.
So yeah,
I mean,
stuff like that.
longsword already can just.
I know, because it's one fucking.
Yeah, they're already
fire.
spamming
It's just
it.
like that's all you
Right,
do.
they're already
Yeah,
doing it.
like I think that Capcom, like historically speaking, the main issue that Capcom has always had is CCC. Capcom cannot count, which is that they have a pathological inability to do any sort of math and realize that when you do damage, you're supposed to divide by the time to get DPS, and like their entire balancing is just like, okay, let's balance just with the damage instead of accounting for how long a move takes to execute. Which we can see like in World, in Rise, in every single iteration of the game. But in older versions of the game, it wasn't as much of a thing because there were so many. One, you couldn't see numbers, and number two, the combat was more simple.
And
it
it
wasn't
was slow and clunky and.
Yeah, and a lot of their design issues were more or less covered by the monster design, and it's in World. Well, Generations already has hit. Like the issues begin with 4. I feel the issues begin with Generation 4, and they start getting worse because when the combat starts getting modernized, is where their inability to do math starts rolling in. Because Capcom themselves in interview have said that the way they balance things is that they play the game in the office with the developers and with people in the building, and then they make changes based on the input made by the playtesters.
So
which
what you're
works.
saying, sorry, I want to pause for just 1 second. So what you're saying is, it's the equivalent of if a U.S. company said, "Here, you people on Reddit, go play the game, and then if it's good, that's good for us."
Well, we had somebody who was
Reddit.
on the coding team who was talking about. I mean, I don't think we want to name drop or whatever, but they already told us on the Discord like how it was. Like the developers like of the monster, they were running around taking photos of like them next to the monster and not worried about like how it actually plays out, you know, in the actual fight. We know that they do not plan this out. So when I think about that, I always wondered, like, should I keep having these conversations? Should I keep hoping for something that's inherently not there? And I think the answer is probably no, right? Like if Aster's right and their math is, you know, off, which we've seen in, you know, some of these things where they just mess up a decimal point and then I just laugh my ass off when he kind of proves it. We also know that, you know, their coding team, their development team, like doesn't really take it serious for the high end, you know, combat. It just kind of ends up being, you know, somewhat difficult at the end, which is kind of cool. I just wonder, like, should I keep complaining that I want this game to have these things that I don't know if they're ever even going to attempt to try to do because they don't cater to the 1% high end.
Well,
you know
they don't care about the Western people at all. So
that's what I'm saying. So like, I don't know. Maybe I should just shut the fuck up.
But like when we like my perspective is gonna be a bit more broad from like the development process for other games I've learned about. And for example, it's not that weird to say that they were testing internally for balancing. Like for example, the Age of Empires 2 is probably one of the most well-regarded strategy games, and their balance team, like we know because one of the developers for the game design team within Insemo Studios, one of the lead developers, has interviews and has a full YouTube channel explaining like the process and how the development went. And he does mention that like the way they tested Age of Empires was like they would have the developer team play test the game and they would get feedback from that. And yeah, they were running math in spreadsheets, but they were also testing player feedback, which is something that it makes sense in the sort of context from the 1990s up till the early 2000s, where the games were not so complex that you could actually have before the internet, you could have relatively strong play testing, and most players were not going to find the one degenerate combo that breaks the game. There was not that much communication, and in general, like games weren't as well tested against the fire of player abuse and networks of player communication. But the issue with Monster Hunter, I feel, is that as the gameplay got more complex, you no longer cannot do that sort of play testing. Because, like, sure, these people are going to be testing the combos that they can manually input and the things that they understand. But number one, you are also exposed to the fact that Monster Hunter has 14 weapons. So if you have, like, 100 employees that's just 10 people per weapon, and it's obviously not gonna be spread. It's not gonna be as nice. It's pretty obvious, I feel, that given that we know that they play test like that, like we know why Longsword ends up like it does. It's because of the 100 employees, 70 of them are playing Longsword, and 2 of them were playing Bow, and nobody ever found that Bow was just bugged completely, and it was the weapon is. It destroys everything because no one bothered testing it.
Yep.
And it's the same. I feel that it's the same issue with heavy bowgun, light bowgun, because no one plays heavy bowgun, so just keep increasing the numbers until things start melting. And even when they start melting, like unless someone playing the weapon said like, I want the weapon nerfed, I want my weapon nerfed, which is something that you don't see. Like if you were a playtester and you enjoy a weapon, it's really rare for a casual player to say like, yeah, this weapon is overpowered, you should probably nerf it.
Right, especially if you like the weapon, no one's gonna say like, oh, I want my weapon to be worse.
Yeah. I mean,
I think somebody in Gunland said that. I'm not sure. Somebody might need to
They've been saying that for 15 years.
Gunlands doesn't count. Gunlands and Hunting Horn do not count. Their players are masochists.
Hunting Horn counts because when Rise came around, they're like, okay, we're actually gonna make Hunting Horn good.
Do damage.
Yeah, the fucking game director's like, okay, this is Hunting Horn's game.
Yeah, well, kinda. They said like, we're gonna make Hunting Horn do damage, but we'll also make the weapon play completely different from before.
It's not Hunting Horn. It's totally a different weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Bow had from old generation to new generation. The difference is that no one wanted to play Bow before. So when they changed the way the weapon played, nobody complained. While Hunting Horn, the people enjoyed the weapon before, it just did shit damage. But they were playing it despite the shit damage.
Yeah. Because it was stylish as fuck.
It was. It's how to flex on other monsters and other players that use long term and still get carded, and then here's this chat of a Hunting Horn user who's just tooting away, beating the hell out of monsters.
And in a way, like during the development of Ice, we're running into the same issues that Capcom probably faces. It's just that we're a development team of 2.5 people, and we're like we have to handle things very different from Capcom because we get actual feedback from players actively playing the game, and we do math unlike Capcom. And one of the things that we have to be careful is like when people are saying like this move does too little damage or this move does too much damage, you also have to look at the numbers before you go like, okay, let's buff it or let's nerf it, because a lot of times it's like, okay, this person is playing one weapon, and sometimes like this player can speedrun their weapon, so their input is going to be biased towards the thing that they already know how they work. But on the other hand, what also happens is like we can think of something that completely fixes the numbers, and we are super excited, and we are like, okay, we finally figured out how to make things line up. Finally, the fucking weapon is balanced, and then you show the changes, and they're like, I do not want to play this. Like, this might be balanced, but this is not fun.
Well, that's the other thing.
That is true.
We can't change the weapon so much, because then that kind of destroys what people were used to and what they think is fun, and then it's a different weapon to them, and then they don't want to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of like when...
That's stupid. I hate that fucking argument, by the way. Like, I think that's the dumbest shit ever. In what fucking world does something just stay the same in any video game? That's like, you wouldn't buy the video game if in Neo 2, if it all only had the same moves from Neo 1. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
You play Pokemon.
What do you mean? And they add new moves all the fucking time. Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, no, I got it. It's everybody who plays sports games. It's the same shit.
If you buy sports video games, you're absolutely stupid. If you buy Madden, you're dumb. Go grab a football. Stop being stupid. Go outside.
We're talking FIFA, NFL.
Video games are meant for dragons and space travel and RPG shit, not for fucking FIFA. Like,
not for simulations.
I get where you're coming from, but I also think that you should be able to have like some core theaters that the people enjoy for the game and expect from the game. Like if the next Monster Hunter was like a space shooter that had nothing to do with Monster Hunter, like if you bought it, you would feel offended.
Yeah, but like we're not talking about that. We're talking about the people that are like, oh, I can't do the old Valorant upside down longsword slash maneuver from GUXX. Nah. I'm like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, but GU doesn't count. It's not part of
whatever it is. You know what I mean? I'm sure GU is probably really, really good too. I'm just saying, like those arguments are.
It is like GU is probably one of the games I hate the most. I really don't like what they do.
But it's got cats
that are up to high rank, and that's it.
Yeah, the cats only exist up until high rank. And all of the weapons suffer for them to exist. We have to take like
all the weapons are shit except Valor Heavy Bowgun and Valor Longsword.
Striker Lance.
Oh, and Striker Lance, that's true. Zebra fucking destroys shit with that.
Just add a 0 to damage and every weapon can be fun.
That is true.
That's what's called the Kiarai's theorem. If you add a 0 to the damage, the weapon will be amazing.
I mean, to be honest, for GU, that's probably accurate because there's so many different styles and hunter art combinations that, most of them feel like shit. But
you don't use them. Like, what's the point in having, like...
Well, because they're mathematically inferior.
Well, it's not just that. Like, if you grab EU, my problem with EU goes into the fact that it's just a grab bag of let's throw things, and someone will enjoy something in there because there's so much garbage in there that eventually you're gonna find something. It's like people say it has like 100 monsters, and yes, it has 100 monsters. You're only gonna fight 3 of them because the rest is shit. It's got like 1,000 quests, and of those, 900 are delivery quests. So you're not gonna be playing those more than you have to, and the game forces you to play a lot of those.
No wonder Rise fell, because you got even less monsters and even less things to do there.
Rise, beyond just having little monsters, because Rise doesn't have that few monsters compared to other games. It's more that there's no end game content for Rise besides rampages and like the specific end game monsters that they made, which is also my problem when talking about like the quality of Rise, because people say the gameplay in Rise is good, but for me it's like, no, the gameplay you cannot judge the gameplay yet because there's not a monster that makes you actually bring the game to its full potential. World had a similar issue where people were saying like the combat is amazing, I love it, everyone loved World, and then the 80s start rolling out and people started complaining and we're going like, the 80s are shit, they don't work, this game is and then
Scrubs did, because 80s were the best part about base game.
Yeah, man, it's the petition signers that later showed up in Electron, those sort of ones.
What a lot of runners realized with the 80s was that a lot of the mechanics they didn't like in those fights were there all along. It's just that you never had to deal with them because things dropped them. Yeah, because you just destroy them. It's like and Iceborne has the Iceborne magnified the issue with like some of the fights take so long that you start seeing all of the flaws for the game because you have to actually fight the monster. I mean, for some monsters like the Kushala is the shining example of Kushala is a great monster if you're a gunner because Kushala never leaves the ground, while every other weapon thinks that Kushala is garbage because he remains in the air forever.
You can't do anything about it.
Nope.
And gunners can.
Well, yeah, but the melee can't.
No.
They just have to wait for it to come back down.
We just get farther away every time he lands on the ground. Just farts us away every time.
If your weapon could lock Kushala was an amazing monster. If your weapon could not lock Kushala was an unplayable mess. Please remove.
Well,
the speedrun strats.
Well, I think that's where a lot of Monster Hunter are starting to fall apart. Like you're saying, as the gameplay is getting more modernized and faster and smoother, they didn't change the monsters a whole lot between the games, and so you can still now lock monsters, and I don't think that's good because then you don't. Yeah, you're monster.
Or worse, some weapons were dealt so many tools that they don't have to give a shit what they're fighting. Like if you grab a longsword and you look at the longsword script,
it's the same for every monster.
Yeah, it's the same for every monster, and like it doesn't matter what the monster has. Your option is always going to be like, I have some counter on my list. We'll deal with this.
Yeah.
While weapons without as many options start getting fucked really hard because it like switch axe or gunlance, which don't have that many evasive options
in general. Yeah. Well, any of the slower weapons.
I think that Lance's main issue is that it just doesn't do damage. So a lot of issues that the game solves by letting you like trip monsters or stagger them, Lance cannot use them because it does so little damage that the monsters are not gonna be reliably tripping or whatnot.
Right. Well, because some weapons get to the point where you get to the whole stagger lock where you trip them and you can do enough damage to get them ready to trip again while they're on the ground, and so they get up and then you trip them again and you just rinse and repeat. Whereas some of the lower damaging weapons like Lance, you can't do that because if you get the trip, you're not.
You have to actually play the game.
Yeah, you have to actually play the game, and that's where there's a bigger disconnect in the weapons are now. Is just some weapons trivialize the entire game, and some weapons can't play the game.
And what's funny is some weapons are able to stun lock the monsters the whole way and they get nerfed. For example, we're talking aerial greatsword. was able to lock in monsters got nerfed. Slicing ammo got nerfed. What was the other one? The clusters got nerfed. Yeah. But go ahead and put on the longsword to any person, and it's fine. Don't touch the longsword.
Yeah,
don't touch the baby.
Like the argument is supposed that the counters require skill, but the counters have like 45 seconds of invincibility.
Like, yeah, it's literally a second. It's like 1.2 seconds of iframes on everything. It's like, what the fuck? Everyone else has got a sixth of that.
Yeah.
Or lance hops.
The hops on Switch X, for example, are not symmetrical. You move more in one direction than the other.
What?
And Capcom Engine has a way of saying like an animation should be symmetrical. If you want to break that, you have to intentionally change things by hand. So that means
wait, hold on.
The hop.
There's like the side step for Switch X, left and right.
Yeah, one is longer than the other.
Let me guess.
They are different animations. I think so. One is like 0.15 meters, and the other one is like 0.2.
So from left to right is different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it sounds like any physical.
Okay, I did not know that. That bugs the shit out of me. I also liked how bow spread was off-centered. It was like
bow spread is off-center. Spread is also like random, but not really random.
Yeah,
so confused.
Shit doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of fat finger in there. Moon Bunny also found that I think there was a Kinsect input which was like outright wrong. They missed one of the continuations for one of the sides. Like if you do an attack from the right and then you aim, it works fine. But if you do it to the left and aim, it doesn't work. They just completely forgot one entry on one file, and no one ever noticed.
Because nobody plays Insect. Got it.
Because no one should play Insect.
Yeah, they were just playing longsword, like you said. 10 out of those 12 are longsword users, and the other 2 are bows. Who's gonna catch it, really?
And I think they kind of rolled themselves into a corner with Rise, because the wire bag it's a resource, but it's like their super special resource that runs on a separate. Like most weapons already were running on some sort of resource. Stamina had a purpose at some point in history. But with Rise, like your resource just becomes like the wire bag because it's much easier from a design standpoint to just add this one like super special resource, which is why, for example, the bowguns didn't really get updated through the games. What they got were like the special ammos and the super special like Wyvern Fire, Wyvern Heart. Mm-hmm. And the reason they add those is because if you add a new resource, you don't have to balance against previous things. You can just balance in a void. The problem is that I feel that the wire bags are a cop-out. Or we cannot do math, so let's just add things which don't depend on us making the other things work. And as a result, like the wire bags are like overly dominant. It's just because the clutch claw was controversial because every weapon had to break their flow of combat to be able to use a claw. It wasn't that you were doing a combo and you could claw it, except unless you were Sword and Shield or DBs.
Yes. Well, Sword and Shield after the update. When they updated Sword and Shield, it became from one of the worst weapons to the best weapon immediately.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's ridiculous. And it wasn't even Clutch Claw. It's not even so much that. It's also that it doesn't fucking work. Half the time you use it, it just doesn't work. It's annoying.
Really? No, because when they implemented for SNS for Iceborne, it was really great because you can just roll into a Clutch Claw. Great. It's smooth transition. But for any other weapon, you have to stop.
Wait, Hammer also had. Hammer also got its combo into Clutch Claw.
Well, that's why Hammer felt really good early on.
For the win?
Everyone loves Hammer.
Spin for the win.
And I feel the wire bags are like a sort of. Okay, we kind of understood what the issue was. The issue was that for Clutch Claw, you had to stop playing your weapon and play the claw grab minigame. And after you were done with the minigame, you went back to your weapon, which felt like shit because people wanted fluid combat.
Well, we got even worse now. My opinion.
Each weapon gets its own unique wire back, and they normally follow through from most attacks and whatnot. I just think it's a horrible design choice because they are boxing themselves into a corner because they have to balance that. And from the things that we know from the leaks, it's like for Rise G, they've said like 20 to 30 extra monsters, which might or might not happen because they've probably rushed the schedule to release Daybreak.
Yeah, you telling me that they're releasing it early is kind of huge for me.
Yeah,
it worries me as well.
Yeah,
Still can buy it, but it worries me.
Bad. We saw already what happened.
Oh yes, sorry, Jin, you missed that. As we're talking about in like the leaks, Rise Sunbreak wasn't supposed to come out till like later, like early next year.
Yeah, 2 more quarters.
Horrible for all of us.
They also said like 5 more stages, which I mean we have the ruined tower thingy, which is probably gonna have something that's gonna make people hate that stage.
It's 5 stages. Like, okay, we have 1 small arena for that Elder Dragon. Like 2 more tower defense maps. Are those counting? And then like,
oh shit, I didn't think about the tower defense.
Yeah,
map.
like how many of those are actual maps? We're gonna have like 1 new map, 2 new special arenas, and like 2 tower defense.
If you think about it, Iceborne actually had like 5 new stages because you had Origin Isle, you had Celiana Supply Cache, the Horfrost Reach, which was what everyone thinks when they say a new area.
Yeah, and then you never used it.
And Safi Jiva's.
And you had Guided Lands too.
And the Guided Lands. 5 stages. Iceborne had 5 stages, but of those, ironically, one of the most like enjoyable stages that they added was the Celiana Supply Cache, which is not used.
Great map.
It's a great map that they never use outside of the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, then like they killed Guided Lands, and then like there was no reason to ever go back to the Hoarfrost after you did the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they.
Hoarfrost baffles me because the map is like it's so detailed and there's so much stuff going on, and you don't have to go to any of that, and monsters never go there. It's literally just like for you to platform once in a lifetime and then like get the endemic and get out.
That's why they made the events where you gotta go hold down penguins and collect items that are all in the nick and crannies of it, and we're kind of like not stopping to take the scenery. We just want to get this over with and done with the event. So give me my elf ears. That's it.
Yeah. So when they say that, there's 5 new maps, it's like
not really, but I say we're splitting hairs. All right, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect them to have 30 plus monsters. It's gonna be a G rank expansion. Why not?
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm also just, I think it's a weird transition. Am I the only one that thinks so? Like, Rise was like a yokai themed, like totally Eastern style game. And then Sunbreak is like fucking Castlevania Monster Hunter.
It's such a, it's gonna give you a whiplash coming from, oh shit, where the hell am I?
Like, I don't know why they did this whole like vampiric, like castle themed thing.
Oh, I know why.
Oh, I would love to hear why.
It is part of the leaks. It says Western yokai motifs.
So we're gonna have Sasquatch monster and like Bigfoot.
Yeah, but out of the box, you're getting a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're having Chupacabra. Got it.
Is it gonna start counting every time a hunter goes in? One hunter.
Like.
Wild.
2 hunter. 3 hunter.
Well, it's gonna count the cards. That's for damn sure.
Like. The Capcom design document had like Western yokai motifs, the ability to skip base Rise, 20 to 30 extra monsters,
you can
5 additional stages.
Skip base Rise.
I mean, that's what was on the leak of what they were planning to do. By skip Rise, it could also mean we give you Defender for the second time.
It could be. Well, because I mean, Rise was already short. Like getting through the whole story took like 4 hours. Like it's not that long.
Which story?
Well, like the village stuff.
or
getting through all the village stuff.
Yeah, but then you get to the Gathering Hub, which is not really the Gathering Hub, but it's more like Village Part 2.0.
Yeah. But,
and they also promise like more silk binds and switch skills.
Well, of course have to. That's their flagship thing.
No. They said a new element to further dig into silk binds and switch skills, which could mean more silk binds and switch skills, or it could be a new mechanic that also uses those.
That would be so fucking annoying if you had another new, like, something that you could do to the monster that required silk binds, and then you have to determine whether or not that's even worth it in a hunt, or I'm just going to use my silk bind attacks.
What if they nerf the silk bind attack so you're forced to use a new mechanic?
Well, okay, so if they nerf any of the silk binds, nobody cares because they're not going to nerf longswords, and everyone else doesn't use them anyway. Like, you're just like, fuck it, we're just going to do without them.
And then we'll sneak under the radar, like, don't look at me. I'm just gonna be coming in the way that I am, busted. Just don't look at me.
I mean,
look at longsword.
It also says like silk binds and switch skills are used. Bo says hello with dodgeball.
I would love for them to. Well, they should have add more switch skills because you can't change one switch skill on all your weapons. It's like why? So I
I would love to be able to just mix and match no matter where I'm choosing. To just let me have my own playstyle.
They'll probably do that with the G-Rank expansion.
I mean, then you start getting into the problem that GU had, which is that when you're allowing the player that much freedom, so it's in there's gonna be an optimal, and the optimal is just gonna be the thing that everyone does.
You can't use those words, Aster.
Optimal?
Optimal. I mean, mad when you start saying that shit.
I'm talking about like optimization theory, not like optimal in optimal playstyle. Like there's gonna be there's gonna be a place where the derivative is 0. Well, sorry, where the gradient is 0, and in that place is where most players are gonna be sitting. We call that place the optimum.
The viable place.
The viable place. The idea of Western yokai for me was super interesting because, for example, Monster Hunter Explore already had some monsters which were inspired by more Western shapes like Eo Garudia, Nefu Garumudo, which looks like a sphinx.
I don't know what the fuck you're saying right now.
Oh my god! Let me look up the Explore monsters. The Explore monsters look super cool, and when I saw when I saw the vampire monster that we got, I was like, this looks like a discount Explore monster. I'm pasting them on the Discord comment.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, like that's God, what's his name? Muro Domunto. And like that one looks so much better as a sort of like vampire monster. Like it looks more like a werewolf monster, but with.
I mean, it fits the theme. It does.
Yeah, it fits the theme that they had.
Oh, that thing is pretty sick looking. I'll have to put these on when I do the edits.
Yeah, like the Explorer monsters look sick as fuck, and then you have like the
Explorer was
concept
phone only, right?
Yeah, Explorer was phone only.
Nefu Garumudo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one looks like
a sphinx.
That one yeah, it looks like a sphinx.
Gib.
And Eo Garudia looks like a Garuda.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Sarah approves apparently. Sarah approves in the chat. I see it.
Oh, okay. So Sarah's selling around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't realize Explore had their own monsters too.
Yeah, Explore had its own monsters, and their monsters looked very Western. Like a lot of those are like Western ideas. It's like mostly Egyptian and some like Germanic-ish.
Actually, now I'm interested, Aster. Now that you told me that, yeah, if we had some more Egyptian like style monsters, that'd be really fucking cool.
The only one that comes to mind,
like an Anubis thing, would be
like an Anubis thing.
Like the only one that comes to mind is that one of the final, yeah.
Wait, the final boss would be Dalamador.
No, for like GU there was this bug that was able to get like
Atalka.
Yeah, Atalka. Yeah. It was super cool, great fight. But he pilots a mech basically.
Yes. Gundam in Monster Hunter. We need more of that.
No, we don't.
Come on, just one more.
Okay. Yeah. So, what other Western style yokai monsters do you think that we would have?
Well, I mean, but like, which ones I think we'll get versus which ones I would like to get are two completely different things.
What would you think is a monster that we could actually get?
Like, I don't know, like not South American mythology is garbage, and we have no monsters that look cool. But Mexican have like Quetzalcoatl, the serpent dragon.
Yeah, okay, a serpent dragon thing.
You've got like all of the Egyptian, all of the like Nordic mythology monsters that you could draw upon. You've got like
Nordic themed Monster Hunter would be so cool. No, just me.
We almost had that, fam. It was called Iceborne. Banbaro armor is literally you dressing as a Viking.
Banbaro is a Viking armor, but that's just it.
And like Iceborne had so much potential, and then like for example, Orochi Kirin was dropped from Iceborne. Yeah. The Ice Kirin wasn't part of the Ice expansion.
Yep.
Because no one wanted.
Neither was Gameth. That was an error.
Yeah, and all of the theories when Iceborne was launching, and people in the demo going into a cave and saying like Gammoth is on a painting on a cave, so it must be confirmed. And then nope.
Well, like Orochi was in the files even in base game.
Yeah, Orochi and Alatreon were in base game. Orochi Kirin was as an empty folder for Kirin, and Alatreon was through the Skadora set, which only had the arms and a string that says Escalora Arms, which were removed after the third patch. Orochi Kirin.
But they were there.
They were there for a moment.
Eventually
we got Alatreon, and Orochi Kirin and Alatreon coincidentally line up with a previous leak where the leak basically got every single monster in Monster Hunter World correct, except those two. And the leak also had something that was called Treasure Dragon, which eventually turned out to be called Starov.
Yeah.
What it didn't have was Behemoth and Leshen, so it makes sense that we lost two monsters and we got two collabs to replace them. So we didn't get Orochi because of the tree and Behemoth, and the same for Alatreon. But Alatreon got brought back because of the anniversary when they started bringing Series Favorite. And by Series Favorite, I mean the monsters which were on top of the Nielsen poll that they made, which was a survey about which monsters were the most popular and most likely to bring players back to the game.
Like we got
yeah.
Well, why did we get Frostfang Barioth?
Frostfang Barioth was probably just for. I mean, part of it could be stories because it kind of does link to it. Frostfang was Frostfang is from stories.
Yeah,
originally.
I mean, he totally is. I guess that wouldn't surprise me because that's why we have fucking Monster Writing and Rise is to collab with fucking stories.
And for Iceborne, Fatalis, for example, they redid the lore. They said that Fatalis hadn't been killed. They rewrote the lore during the anniversary so that they could say that for the first time that a hunter was killing a Fatalis in Monster Hunter World. They retconned all of the previous skills to be he wasn't really dead.
That's just it. He just wasn't really dead. We carved him up.
Oh.
That made the free people that actually care about the lore really, really angry.
But
I believe it. Yeah.
Imagine spending hours researching, putting theories together, and Capcom just give them the biggest middle finger you've ever seen.
We're gonna retcon this whole thing.
This was a discussion that happened not that far ago, which is that when Monster Hunter was originally made, like Monster Hunter 1, the art book for Monster Hunter 1 is very different in terms of tone compared to literally everything that comes after, because they weren't expecting this to become a franchise. So in Monster Hunter 1, the art books and the lore are much more off the wall. They have much crazier ideas, and you've got a lot of cocaine-fueled shit that people repeat to this day. Because that art book didn't expect the game to keep on going. So they could say things like, this is a post-apocalyptic civilization, there's these weapons of mass destructions, elder dragons are sentient, and shit like that. All of that normally comes from the first art book, which was made for the first game.
Elder dragons are supposed to be sentient?
So, in the art book for the first game, which has dubious canonicity because, again, they didn't expect the series to continue. They were like, if this is our one shot, let's just throw all of the cocaine lines into the table and write whatever comes out. Elder dragons were the reason that civilization in Monster Hunter is weird, in the sense that you have technology but you're also living like primitives, is that there was supposed to be a human civilization which reached the pinnacle by using monsters as materials and as slave labor, and eventually they rebelled. And there was a gigantic war between monsters and humans. And the result of all of that is that it was led by the Elder Dragons. And the Elder Dragons, in their rage, lost their ability to be intelligent, but they're still sentient.
Gotcha.
Human. Yeah. And there's also Monster Hunter 4, I think, says that the tower is literally made out of Kushalas. It's just made of Kushala corpses.
I don't blame them.
Yeah. Fuck you, Kushalas.
There's a lot of the lore, a lot of the weirdest lore comes from the first art book, just because they didn't expect the series to continue. So they basically went you can say whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to continue from where you left off.
And Monster Hunter 2 started, and they're like, oh shit.
I mean, not even Monster Hunter 2. They got Monster Hunter G. Even after G, Capcom, the first games, you notice that they were very different in terms of programming and in terms of where they were going. Monster Hunter doesn't really get this, they were using the engine of whatever the game was running on until Monster Hunter Tri was still on Wii engine, but Portable Third is where they started using NT Framework instead of, because MHFU is running on Vita, and you're still getting the Vita formats, or if not Vita, the PSP formats. The older games were basically the file formats match the console you're playing on, because each console had its own file formats. Try was also on the Wii formats, and then you start getting like, okay, now we are using empty framework, which I guess was the point where they actually started realizing like, okay, this franchise is Call of Duty, and we can like exist as a company forever if we just keep releasing it.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, I don't know how that became such a thing that Monster Hunter it became an annualized game. Like, when did that fucking start happening?
For the Japanese, that was always a case.
I know there's been a game out like every year since like 2004, but like I don't know, I just thought it feels so weird.
I mean, they've even had like 2 MMOs. They have mobile games. They had a game for the Docomo phone, for a flip phone.
Yeah.
Which was called Monster Hunter I.
Yeah, I saw Revy playing that. I was like, how the fuck do you get that thing going? Yeah, I just think it's really weird that somehow Monster Hunter got to that point, and like, because I don't know, I guess us over here in the West, we're just like, oh yeah, we get a Monster Hunter game on like a handheld every 3 years or something like that, because we never got like the original like versions of the games, and we just got like the G-Rank versions, and then all of a sudden, since they started the world releases, it's like, every 16 months, 12 months or whatever, like, hey, here's a new game, here's a new game, here's a new game. We're like, whoa, fucking hold on a minute. Because like it was just been going downhill ever since World. Like World started out great, and it was Iceborne. It was like, okay, great, and then it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then Stories 2, and then Rise, and then we get the new fucking Stories 2 and the new Rise. We're just like, yeah, let's we get a little burnt out here.
And after Sunbreak, 2023, we get Monster Hunter 6.
Yeah, which is gonna be fucking crazy. So it's like I don't know, maybe it's just the people who play Monster Hunter play it so extensively that it's just like, I feel like we never stopped playing and there's a new one out. We're like,
yeah. Well, I'm not done yet. I haven't got him at Tech Charm. Yeah, slow down a little bit.
At least for the development side, like they do alternate between mainline team and
like Call of Duty. Yeah,
like Call of Duty. But
let's not go down that route.
I think on the interview where they were defending the Rise team, where they asked him like, who made Rise? Was it the main team or was it like the B team? And they were like, we don't call it the B team. All of the games were made with love and care, and we put all of our effort. It's like, it's obviously the B team. Like,
yeah, it's clearly the B team. You might not want to say it's the B team, but even you acknowledge we don't want to call it the B team, but you still know it as the B team.
Yeah, it's not the B team.
It is the B team. And you just look at their code and the way they format things, and it's obvious that like they grab the interns and the drunk out like employees that they can't fire, because in Japan you got fire your employees. So and they put them on the B team.
Do you know if both World and Iceborne was A team, or was one of those?
It was A team.
Okay, so one of those is A team.
World and Iceborne were A team. The difference
then, like,
was
GU Rise
was the B team. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Capcom doesn't want to call them the B team, but it is the B team, and you notice it by the credits and by the file formats. Gotcha. Rise development history is complicated because it's one of the longest times that the B team was working on a single title, because originally Rise was stated to release 1 year earlier.
Right, and then they had to redo all the map structure and stuff because of how popular World was, and then they had to redo the game.
We have the meeting notes for the meeting where they were told that they had to do a direction change. They had 1 extra year to work with that.
I think it turned out great. I love the Rise maps. I think with the invention of the silk bugs being able to get around a lot easier, the Rise maps are probably my favorite maps in the entire series. 3U still holds near and dear to my heart. I love 3 maps, but I love Rise maps.
It's kind of fun to zoom around on the gunlands and those kind of maps.
But keep in mind that the Rise maps, like at least the first ones, you can tell that they were
off. Yeah.
Originally you had invisible walls, and they just removed the invisible walls and add collision to the mountains. Because if you have these gigantic vertical mountains that just go up in vertical, you can tell that it was originally like multiple like areas connected by. You even have the tiny pathways in the shrine ruins.
Yeah, I mean clearly there were. But then, like, there's, like, the other ones, like the desert, which is not like that. The desert is so fucking good. I love the desert map.
The desert, you can kind of tell which areas were already made, and when they were told, like, make it open.
The upper level was made, and then, they did, like, the whole bottom half and shit. Yeah. But yeah, I still think it was a good change. I know they had to push back development on that for a bit. But...
Yeah, and we know how happy they were about it. Like being able to read the meeting minutiae where they were told like basically, okay, so you've been working on this game for this time. You're gonna have to make changes, and we are giving you 1 extra year to make those changes to the maps, to the encounters, and to the weapons. Because Rise was in development during World's development. Mm-hmm. In fact, Rise began before Iceborne began. So the Clutch Claw and the Wirebag are not to some degree, they would have looked at what was happening and went like, okay, maybe we should avoid doing what they are doing because people are not liking it. But it wasn't something that they just went like, okay, so this was in the previous game, like how can we improve this? It was like basically they reached the same idea. Some of the early concept art for the Wirebag has like more monster-centric stuff. Like you wouldn't use the Wirebag to move yourself, you would use it to like connect to the monster and do the Empire Strikes Back, the 80-80 swing around to topple them by spinning around their legs. Like that was a thing that was originally planned.
Dude, that would have been so fucking dumb.
You know that move that the Light Bogan has with the skill bind where you can just swing yourself
pendulum swing. That's what
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And from those concept arts, like we get the idea that originally the Wirebag was just meant to interact with the monster instead of the environment, because the difference would be like you are not like with the Light Bogan, you swing around a point in space. The Wirebag is just a justification for not having to properly connect with geometry.
Right, you don't attach to a monster, you just attach to a random point in the map.
Yeah, and if you remember like Capcom's history with collisions, you kind of start realizing like why the Wirebags do not attach to things but just exist in the air. Because otherwise, 99% of Rise would be, why the fuck am I attaching to monster tail when I hit the head?
Yep. Or monster leg when I hit the head, or other random stupid shit like that. Yeah. And I'm glad they did that change, because not interacting with the monster makes it actually a lot more fun. Because I love the bugs way more than the Clutch Claw.
I agree with that as well, because you're able to do some really cool moves with it. It's just 1 or 2 things that we just don't like about it. They can just adjust it or remove it. It's actually really good.
I like how one of the options is remove it. Just get rid of it.
I mean, I think that it's important for game developers to always remember that removing things is always an option within a franchise. The ability to say, this didn't work, and we are going to spend more time trying to fix something that's unworkable or which is just not on the direction we want to go. It's valuable to be able to say like, okay, this doesn't work. Even if you have to say in the next game like we're lacking a theater, it's better if the theater is negatively impacting how the game plays.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they do that with every Monster Hunter game, where they come out with like a mechanic or something for that game, and then they just never bring it to the other games. The only thing that's really kept was like mounting, but they've changed it a bit.
Well, yeah, but keep in mind that one time they kept something. It was a horrible idea that did so many changes that ended up like, I feel, degrading part of the experience.
A bad change, do you?
I feel that mounting introduced problems, because the reason mounting exists is because originally only the Items Enclave could mount during the Monster Hunter 4 demo. And people realized immediately that mounting was insane, because you could just lock the monster into the ground and wail it, and then mount it again, because all of your kit allowed you to mount, and the Enclave did infinite damage, because it had super high MVs. And they realized like, oh fuck, mounting is super overpowered. So what are the solutions? And what Capcom decided was like, let's make every weapon mount. And when you have every weapon mounting, then it's like, how can you even begin to mount a monster if you are a normal weapon? And they said like, okay, aerial attacks. And how can a weapon do an aerial attack? Ledges. and then when you add ledges, you have the problem that the monsters were not designed for verticality. So it's not that mounting is a bad mechanic. It's that to be able to have...
It is a chain reaction of shit.
Yeah, you have to add so much shit just to get mounting working. Did Jin die?
Yeah, I'm looking at what the fuck Jin
said.
I
think his camera just committed suicide. Oh, that answers that question, doesn't it? His camera just carded.
Okay.
Okay, Jin. Ladies and gentlemen, we are sad to announce the passing of Jin. May his memory remain. You saw it here first.
He did the legendary 3 cards.
You may send flowers to his family.
Okay. Okay, bye,
So
Jim.
Send him drinks. He'll probably appreciate that more.
Yeah, he needs drinks. So yeah, that's interesting. I guess I didn't really think about all the other steps that had to get added to have mounting continue on. But it feels like Monster Hunter does that, where like, you know, every game they come out with like some specific mechanic for that game, and then they just abandon it. Like, okay, we'll do something else for the next game.
But that's just from Try, right? Because like Try introduced underwater, it was removed for you introduced mounting, it was not removed, even if it should have. Then you have World, and which mechanic introduced World? Did World introduce?
World had the Slinger, so.
Oh right, the Slinger and the Clutch Claw.
Clutch Claw, and then Rise has Wire Bugs, which effectively is Clutch Claw 2.0. But no Slinger.
The Slinger should have stayed. I like the Slinger.
The Slinger is kinda there though. Not the Iceborne Slinger, but
now.
Yeah, you can throw items by aiming.
Yeah, it's kind of Slinger-ish.
True. Because I guess it's because I like my shortcut to some moves to the weapon. That's the only reason why.
But yeah, like, so other than like mountain combat though, like, yeah, underwater combat got left behind, hunter arts got left behind, kinda.
Hunting art doesn't count. That was for a spin-off.
Well,
I like hunter arts though. It was fun.
That's when they were making, they were conscious that was not going to be mainline, so they were allowed to do stupid shit that doesn't make any sense.
Fair enough.
On the other hand, like if you look at the interviews for World, you realize that the Slinger was a much bigger part of the game design than it ended up being. And I think that spilled over to Clutch Claw, because during they've talked about the demo, where not even the demo, the trailer where Lagaya Cruz was and the entire debacle about Lagaya Cruz. But they've said in interviews that at that point in time, the old weapons weren't even coded. Like the greatsword on the player's back is just part of the player model. It's not a weapon. There's no weapons. There's no code for weapons. There was just code for the player the player model. Yeah, and the Slinger. And during a lot of World development, they were talking about the Slinger, the things that the Slinger was introduced. And in base game, there were no Slinger combos. The Slinger in base game was just a tool for aiming and shooting like pods and rocks. Mm-hmm. And also like the entire pod system was crazy in base game in terms of like there's so many pods. All of them are completely useless. Water pods melt the armor on Lavasio, but it's so slow to do that, so you just keep wailing on him.
One monster that it works on. Well, you can use water pods to get rid of the mud on Baroth too.
You can use the water pods to clear the fire puddles on the Astra.
Yeah.
Ryoso on the stream, hammer.
No, he didn't use the water pods. He used water ammo. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna use this light bowgun and bring water ammo and shoot out the flames. And I'm like, bitch, fucking, why? Like, who's gonna spend the time being a fucking fire extinguisher out here just trying to spray the fucking fire walls? Because of course, projectiles can't pass through them. So we're gonna give you this whole ammo, and you're gonna sit here and spend the entire fight clearing the fire patches for everyone else. Because if you don't, this monster's just gonna throw fire across the entire fucking room and kill everybody. It's like, thanks. Good design. I fucking hate Luna.
But
tell us how you really feel, Jen. Fam.
You see, like how much emphasis was placed on the Slinger, but then the Slinger couldn't actually do that much. So I think that the Slinger was gonna be like supposedly World's main centerpiece, and then they realized like, okay, what can the Slinger do that the weapons cannot? And then they took the correct decision to say like, okay, let's leave the Slinger as is. Let's not take away from weapon identity.
And that's fine, because I like the Slinger in base game. Like being able to shoot pods and just shoot little things and do little distractions turned out to be fucking great, especially for some runs. Like it's
especially
a really
for Koshala.
Yeah, it's a great tool to distract monsters, pull them different areas, throw your flash pods, rather than just be right in front of you. It's great.
Yeah. Just the ability to aim pods was massive because before that you had to know the exact distance that the flash pod would travel, so that you could line your character awkwardly with console command with portable controller, and then like throw the pebble and hope that the pebble shined in front of the monster and not 20 meters behind.
Yeah.
Isn't that why we do the flash bomb behind the monster, so that way make sure that it gets flashed back in the old games?
Yeah.
Yep. So like I really like the Slinger. I think the Slinger was actually a real good addition to the game.
And it was a good addition because it was so subtle, but I think that they realized in Iceborne, like, okay, the main mechanic of our gameplay it's not the main mechanic, So how can we force the players to use?
That's how they came up with the claw. We're gonna make this a main.
And we're gonna make them enjoy it. We're gonna
and that's what everyone hates
so
about
they
it.
have
It's
to use
a
it.
forced thing. You have to use it. Like, here, we're gonna force you to use this thing that we want you to use.
The wire back is also forced, but people don't hate it because the wire back is part of the weapon. While the clutch claw feels like it's something separate that you are forced to use.
You have to stop and use it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to stop and use it. Stop, drop, and roll. Everyone do the dinosaur.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably why everyone really hates it.
And also like the fact that it became really obvious, like that the combat became. Script doesn't mean bad, but it does become rote. And it was like you clutch to the face, you punch 3 times. You wall bank if you are not TA. You don't wall bank if you are TA. You just punch once more so that it enrages.
That's why I like
that was how every fucking fight started, and that's where it started to get monotonous. And then the walls didn't work all the time, so you throw the monster into the wall, and then they just kind of slide up into them, and you're like, okay,
again,
well, I gotta restart.
Electron.
Yeah.
We're all looking at you, Electron, again.
Yeah, that fucking wall.
Oh, the Electron wall behind him.
That's such a fucking dumb wall. I've seen those map datas for that fucking wall.
It just goes up against the wall. It's like, that's a pretty good wall. I like it. And then it just does nothing.
The way they made the. Supposedly, the collision geometry should be simple, so that collision calculations are straightforward. For that wall, they just added all of the polygons that they could. They wanted it super detailed collision, which means that it fails a lot of time because it just gets trapped between angles.
Yep.
But that's nothing compared to Rajang can grab the air and jump back and counter.
He can grab nothing. Like, half the time I see people fighting Rajang, he falls over and grabs air, and he's like, "Yeah, I made a wall." And then goes.
That's how powerful he is, man. It just grabs atoms.
He grabs
just
atoms. He's just
it's like
I love it. World Rajang is such a fucking nightmare.
Rajang is an airbender. He's
an airbender.
He's pushing
do not
against
question
the
the power of Rajang. He can do it all.
Yeah, Rajang.
He goes Super Saiyan.
Wait, he has thunder, he has earth, he has wind. He only needs water to be the avatar. The master
fire.
of
Well,
elements.
no, okay. So, but if he throws rocks and he's in your water, they give you water blight.
Oh, the avatar, the master of 4 elements, Rajang.
Rajang actually might be the fucking avatar. And he does have an avatar state.
Electron, just eat your heart out, man. We'll get a new avatar now.
Electron ain't got shit on Rajang. I still think Rajang is a more annoying and harder fight than Electron. Electron's great. I love Electron. He's hard to learn, but once you get him down, he's a fucking amazing monster. Rajang just doesn't work.
Unless you have Mind's Eye. Then it works kind of, a little bit.
I mean, I'm super casual, so like Rajang for me is like one of the most horrible monsters in the world. I could
It doesn't matter if you're casual or not. He is one of the most horrible monsters.
That's why in Ice in Ice he dies to Pierce. We made Pierce too strong and we changed the hit zones.
And
he dies to Pierce. And it's wait, I'm talking about Stabilize though, because in Femborn, have you seen what you've done in Femborn?
I'm working on it. I left it in a horrible state.
On Femborn.
Well, because a lot of the weapons, when I was playing, when I was doing Femborn, it was before Electron, Fatalis, Frostfang, so all those weapons still have like their normal weaponry, and we're not supposed to use level 3 weapons, or level 3 ammo, because those aren't a thing. We use level 1s and 2s, and so like the weapons that have like level 3 pierce are doing like 10 times the damage, and they're doing just like some obliterating like damage. It's ridiculous.
Fem Exposed Part 2.
No, I'm fixing it. I'm working on it.
Ice kills Volcana. With Sibel, I was looking at the stream and have you seen the video? Have you seen the video of this is the square hole? This is a square peg. It goes in the square hole. This is the cylinder. It goes in the square hole.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Ice ammo kills Volcana?
Yeah, ice ammo kills Volcana in Femborn.
Why? I didn't see that. I didn't even look at that.
This is like it's not just like a Volcana thing. It's like ice ammo in Femborn is so strong that all of the problems become like just you've created Kiara ice in a Bogan.
Wait, hold on. But why? But ice ammo is still just ice ammo. Like it works like dragon, but it's ice element. How is that?
But the Bogans that can use it are OP.
Okay, again, they're probably using the stuff I didn't already change. So they have like fucking clip 9 ice.
you nuked the weapon trees for like 90% of the
I
weapons.
did.
And they only
I
have one
totally
ammo.
did. Yeah. I'm working on it. I'll get to it. It's not gonna be that ridiculous. I want nerfed bowguns. Bowguns are dumb as shit, and I want them to be fun and have some unique things. But ultimately, they're gonna be weaker than base game.
I mean, I think we can pivot into like the discussion of what the fuck has been going on with bowguns in the entirety of the series. Because in Monster Hunter 1, heavy bowgun and light bowgun kind of makes sense with the combat and whatnot. But over time, they were never updated. Like bowguns, the only thing
They're
bowguns got
boring as
was
shit. I hate
was new ammo. I mean, you hate them, but other bowgun players don't hate them. You are the weird one that enjoys like the super actiony bowguns.
I get, yeah, I guess. I don't know, man.
Like, I think that's part of the issue with bowguns is that we were discussing this with Mumbani like extensively, which is that bowguns, historically speaking, didn't change while the game did change around them. And as a result, when Capcom has tried to fix them, it's always been like through ammo, because they've wanted to make it so that the entirety of the bowgun is your ammo choice.
Mm-hmm.
But
press
what
this
ended up
button. That's it.
Yeah, press this. You're pressing R, but now you're pressing R while the screen says normal free instead of pierce free. And the numerical, like in a way, it kind of does matter, because like if you're piercing, you should be aiming for different diagonals than if you were just spreading. And if you were playing normal, the expectation is you would play farther away. But in practice, it doesn't happen like that. In practice, like it's just you're still in the same place.
You can't get away from a monster. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you cannot get away from the monster. And even if you're like piercing, you want the best line, but you want the best line that goes through high value hit zones. And most of the hits that are doing damage are gonna be on the first few hit zones. So you're still aiming for the same places that spread is. And if you add action moves to bowgun, is it like who's playing bowgun now and why are they playing bowgun? It's a weird question, because like a big chunk of players who play bowgun is because it trivializes the game. I want to farm in peace, so I grab a bowgun.
And I get that
like
100%, which is what I'm trying to destroy, because I love bowguns, because I played bow and heavy bowgun back in 4U, and they weren't like, they're like outside of Hame runs, they weren't great. Like heavy bowgun was fun because you had Sergio's heavy bowgun that can roll and reload ammo, and that was cool. But they weren't like super crazy. Heavy bowgun was strong as fuck, but it had serious flaws. And bow was just like an average weapon that it felt more like a long range greatsword that you have to like stop, hold down your weapon, you find a good opening, you shoot it, you let it go, kind of that thing.
But I feel that bow had always an issue, which is I don't know, it was like Glutton, which is that the base weapon was useless until you get a bow that was broken, and that broken bow made the weapon playable.
Well,
yes.
Okay, so broken in 3, I get, but for you, like even Sergio's bow wasn't broken. It was good, but it wasn't like broken.
Bow of cheese and memes.
That's Jen. And I just love bow and cheese and memes. But
everybody likes their weapon when they're OP.
But do you actually enjoy bow, or do you enjoy the bow of cheese and memes?
Actually, I really enjoyed bow's playstyle with the depth dodge. I really liked the depth. Because it played more like the older style bows, just with, you know, some added safety to it, which was fun. Because you didn't have to charge the whole time. You have to, like, you know, wait for a monster attack, walk away, charge, wait for the full, let it go. You could just dodge through the attack and then turn around and shoot it. It sped up combat a bit and made it feel a lot more like fluid, I guess. But yeah, it just had the added bonus of it had free blast blight, which is just, oh, here's 300 damage, here's 300 damage, here's 300 damage. Just added on to the fact that it already had the best raw crit and slots in the game. It's just like, here's just more. So yeah, the bow itself was kind of broken.
And you could lock and beyond like just the numbers, it enabled bow to lock stuff. And locking for bow was gigantic, because it meant that you have to walk, charge, move, wait, shoot. Just became you shoot, it dies.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think like it's a similar issue with like heavy bowgun in base game, where it's like heavy bowgun was considered garbage, it doesn't damage, like why the fuck does it exist? And then you get Glutton, and then the weapon goes from like this is literally useless to I am now world record runner in a single evening.
Right, and that's the problem where I started to fall off, is because I both liked and hated heavy bowgun, because like it felt like shit to play because the game was not designed around it. Clearly, like you couldn't walk away from monsters. Fat roll was terrible. Everything was like just poor clip sizes, and it's just like, what the fuck are we doing? And then you get the one that breaks the mold, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And you just stun lock monsters forever. And I want to see if I can find any sort of happy medium between the two. Like, yeah, it feels slow and powerful, but not so powerful that you can just stun lock monsters. Oh, actually, I forget. Did we change the stagger thresholds in Ice? Like, they're upped, right?
What do you mean the stagger for monsters? They aren't.
Just
that's why things get nerfed, so that they still are in line with base game.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, at least for Sable Bogan, I kneecapped a lot of Heavy Bogan, much to Sibel's chagrin.
Yeah, I've been talking to Sib about that. Yeah, and he says heavy or Bogans in general just feel like nerfed Heavy Bogans, and that's fine. Yeah, that's what I want. I want to do that with Femborn, but also having some new interesting MOs, but then also have them still be nerfed.
I mean,
working on it.
I mean, at the risk of putting a rope around my neck, because Moon Bunny also does this, which is like saying we have the ability to change animations now. We have the ability to change transitions. We can change the way that things work. The issue with Bogans is another thing that I've discussed like a million times with you, with Moon Bunny, with Sip. It's that Heavy Bogan and Light Bogan difference is that Heavy Bogan sucks to play, because all of the things that characterize Light Bogan. And like most of the plugin work I've done for like all of the changes on Stable for Light Bogan are mainly like I want to play Light Bogan. I want to enjoy the game when I'm playing Light Bogan. So we gave Evade Reload the ability to reload like it's like 5 ammos per level of Evade Reload, so you only need 1 level to max most ammos. We gave Evade Reload the Evade Dash. Now can come up like your dodge is if you have Evade Reload, your dodge is replaced by the Evade Dash. So it's no longer
that's not in Femborn.
So you no longer have to
shoot dodge and then dash. You could just dodge.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, because like I know like the abuse where you switch to another ammo and then do the evade reload switching was always possible. It was just like horrible. Like it's not. I mean that was something we discussed with Cordy when he was still alive, which was like what sort of gameplay should Bogan expect from you? And one of the things we said was like, the scope does require skill. It's just that it's not the sort of skill that anyone that plays the weapon wants. Your ability to not vomit should not be important in your playstyle. And similarly for Light Bogan, we said like your ability to like switch ammo super quick shouldn't be like the key defining feature. And the evade reload gets fucked if you find a ledge. The evade reload gets fucked if the monster looks at you on wars. The evade reload gets fucked if you get staggered in multiplayer. So at that point I just said like, what if you can just do the evade reload dash like at will, and it plays fine. It's not particularly broken because of all the other things that have changed, including that monsters no longer clagger. But it does lead to the question, like, what differences Light Bogan from Heavy Bogan? And it's like, Heavy Bogan that has nothing of what makes Light Bogan.
It's just harder to play.
It's just fatter.
So you haven't been seeing, but I still have the Valor Heavy Bogan mod that Fandris had given me. So Heavy Bogan, when I'm playing it here on Ice, I can bring up the Clutch Claw and then run with Heavy Bogan. So like, I have a weird input where I draw Claw and then I dash and it does a run instead, so I can run with the Heavy Bogan and not shoot, but I could just run with it. And then when I'm during the run, I can slide at the end of it, so I can slide with it like, you know, Valor's get up, run, slide thing, and that makes Heavy Bogan way more fun. It's still slow because you still have fat rolls when you normally roll and walk around, but if you have enough time to bring out your claw and then run and slide,
that's a light bow. You've made light Bogan with fat roll. You've made medium Bogans.
Yeah, medium Bogans basically. But that's the stupid thing. That's what I've also been saying for Capcom for a couple years now. It's like, why do we have Light Bogan and Heavy Bogan?
Heavy Bogan.
Like, especially in Rise, they're literally the exact same. Because there's no rod difference and the emos do the exact same damage, they're literally the same weapon with different hunter arts. And it's like,
yeah, and one sucks and the other one is OP.
Yeah, and one sucks and one's OP. And
ironically, they switched them around for Rise.
Yeah, they did. But it's like, why do we have them? Like, obviously one's gonna be better than the other. Can we just get rid of fucking Heavy Bogan and Light Bogan? Just and make it Bogan.
Well, one of the ideas that was floated on Ice Discord and Moon Bunny also entertained it was making Bogans sort of like Gunlands, where you have like heavy, light, and medium depending on the Bogan of choice. And then the issue was obvious, which is that you've like the problem with gunlands that we fix with Omnilands is that you only use 1/3 of your kit in each of the gunlands types, because you're not going to use the 2/3 which are used by the other ones, because they just don't work for your shelling type. So if we do that for bowguns, what happens is that, okay, you're only using 1/3 of the weapon, depending on which one you have equipped, which kind of does increase diversity, but also it's going to lead to people saying like, why is like 2/3 of my inputs useless when I'm using like this bowgun, and why is the other 2/3 useless when I'm using this other bowgun?
As far as bowgun goes, the only changes really would be special ammo. Like everything else is exactly the same. It's like, do you have fat roll?
Yeah, fat roll, movement speed, and the ability to evade reload.
Would we be able to slow down the player walk speed with weapon drawn between light bowgun and heavy bowgun?
Yes, you can do that.
Alright, I got ideas. I'm just wondering if we have a bowgun that's slower than light bowgun, so you can't just fucking walk away from all the attacks, but slightly faster walk speed than heavy bowgun, that it's still, you can walk and roll kind of thing.
You want to create medium bowguns in world.
I do.
Kill both and make
just say it,
both of them. Yeah. I've been saying that for years. I don't want both light and heavy bowgun. They destroy the identity of the two. There's no reason to have both of them.
Yeah, let's remove them and add what Toukiden's what's it called? Arigashat. It's the Japanese like musket. That's a ranged weapon.
The Onigaroshi.
Yeah, Toukiden calls it something else, but it's basically that. It's a musket.
It'll free up a slot for another weapon.
And then we can have a weapon mod that's a bayonet that you put on it, so your actual melee bash does damage and does cut damage.
We shank monsters now.
They'll bastard ask for that. Ask for the melee weapon on the bowguns to do more damage in the ammo.
So they already do it. If you're going through story, they already do more damage in the ammo.
Story doesn't count. Progression is meant to be
early on, the emmos are so shit that you just melee bash with the bowgun. So, yeah, who cares? That's all you do.
I mean, it does do KO damage, and it's used in runs for that.
Yep, it's pretty.
You also use it to proc the mines, or at least they were used to proc the mines at some point in time.
Yeah, I think in base game they were. Once we found out how the mines worked, we went like, spread, or pierce, and then normal, so we can do like light, and then heavy hit to get up all the mine usage. I think I did that in like the I forget what base game event quest it was, where you had to do like Tio, Luna, and Nergigante, but I had like a really good setup where you put a monster to sleep, and then you do like your mines, and you like pierce, spread, and then normal on the support light bowgun, and then that kind of just rushed things. That was fun. But yeah, I don't like the way bowguns are right now. I do want to change them and make them not
something else.
Because like, wouldn't it be better if we had like one bowgun and then we had another like weapon, just a new weapon? We don't have to increase the amount of weapons we have. We get a new weapon instead.
There's issues with that, but like because the way the code works is like removing weapons is plausible but hard. Adding weapons requires recoding actions, and that's where things get really, really dicey.
Yeah.
Because it's well known that I have a long crusade to find the final solution to the insect glaive problem. So removing weapons from the game is possible. You can actually remove the entries from the menus, and you can ensure that like the game cannot find them. It has interesting results because your game is not the most stable thing ever. And one of my crazy ideas was like find an animator and conscript him into slavery to make the insect glaive no longer be an insect glaive but just be a glaive. Like make it a spear.
Just
a spear and an naginata. Yeah, remove the bug.
And then remove the aerial jumps.
Yeah, and remove most of the aerial.
I would be okay with that.
A lot of all the insect glaive mains told me that like they would be fine with that. They wanted a spear weapon and they were forced into something that had a bug.
I have a question when it comes to the eyes. one thing that's always bugged me about the heavy ball gun, and I think they're so cool and they do shitty damage, but I just like using it regardless. It's a special ammo with Wyvern Heart, Wyvern Snipe. I just don't like using it because it takes forever to actually activate it. Does Ice address that?
Damage. Yeah, they actually do really good damage. It's just the comparatively loading them and unloading them.
Yeah.
DPS wise is not for base game comparisons. It's not as good as just shooting more spread.
Right. It's not. But it's so cool. But I was trying to see if Ice can address that issue.
I don't know stable version Ice, but I know experimental version has much faster recharge on your Wyvern Heart, and it discharges a lot quicker too. It actually is a very plausible, usable MO.
We changed in stable. We changed the values for the other special ammos because Wyvern Heart, for example, damage-wise, is actually pretty competitive in terms of damage. There's a few runs where Wyvern Heart basically just destroys a monster, and
run those dunks.
The machine gun does so much damage when it's properly used. And it's one of the more interesting aspects of heavy bowgun, I feel, because Wyvern Heart, as long as you don't miss, starts ramping up in how much damage it does. So
and that is so cool of it.
Proper play. So we don't really touch Wyvern Heart because for the most part its damage was balanced properly, so we didn't want to break what was already working. But for the other ammos, like for example Wyvern Snipe Type 2 and all of the alternate ways of using special ammo, which you were paying a price to make your weapon do less damage.
Use a mod slot, and then they were just shittier.
So it's just the reloading part, the loading and unloading. That's the part that kind of killed it for me, even though I love using it.
I feel that one of the reasons that those animations are long is because of how much, at least for Wyvern Heart, the machine gun, it balances out just how much damage you can do.
Yeah,
if you
Wyvern Heart's good. It's always been good, but Snipe has not. And then Wyvern Mines, the counter mines, have been.
I love them. Shit. I love them. I love counter mines. Just to be able to do a well-placed one is one of the most satisfying feelings. But I still use it.
They do run into the issue of Monster Hunter collision is not the best.
Yeah, where you throw a mine and the monster goes right through it, but for whatever reason the hitbox is not right there because they're literally on the ground and they're and then you just whiff.
You want to know something fun though? You know what's one of the weapons with the most amount of range attacks? Longsword. Longsword is full of ammo. It's full of shells. Longsword is the projectile. It's a projectile weapon.
Slices and stuff like this. After Effects are all projectiles.
Yeah. Not only that, the counter is creating projectiles that, when they get destroyed by the monster, are what triggers the counter.
Huh.
That explains a lot. Oh, somebody wanted me to ask you this specifically. The one that I asked about how does Gunlance perform in Ice? There's you have to check this. You have to ask this question.
So Gunlance is one of the weapons that have had the most attention in terms of work, because we had 3 excellent Gunlance runners, Sam, Godhigh, who were given input in which directions Gunlance should be, and Moon Bunny was basically converting all of their crazy ideas into something. Moon Bunny and Aradi both did a shit ton of work to make their ideas work, and what we got was Omnilance, which is that the problem that they identified with Gunlance is what I mentioned before, which is you have 3 shelling types, and depending on which shelling type you're using, 2/3 of your moveset are useless, because you're not going to be using the moves that make the other 2 movesets good, because you're doing less damage for no reason.
Yes.
And what they were saying is it's not really giving Gunlance more diversity, because
it's limiting it.
Yeah, it's limiting it, and Gunlance is not a weapon that has so many options that dividing it in 3 is making it 3 reasonable weapons. No, Gunlance, with all of its options, is still not it's not a top tier weapon. If you grab Longsword and you split it into 3 separate playstyles, you would have something that still would work, because Longsword just has so many options. While Gunlance, if you split it into 3, you get really bad weapons. So what Omnilance does is it changed the signature. It grabs the signature element of each type of shelling, and makes it the default. So for full burst, you become, I think it's white. For normal shelling, for the regular shelling, it becomes long, and for the other stuff, it becomes normal. The changelog can express it much better in the technical details because I don't speak Gunlance. I just have I know the history and I know the ideas behind the technical detail.
Basically, all your shelling options are good. Wyvern Fiber is really good. And they have shortcuts, so they actually have a guard point now on your quick reload, like they do in Rise. Came out before Rise, by the way.
Yeah.
And it feels so fucking good.
Good, because the trouble trying to plant that wyvern stake and then trying to hit it.
They removed the wyvern stake.
Yeah, we removed the wyvern
plug
stake.
is gone because it worked. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Aster.
So that was one of the things that was on testing for the longest time, which is that what they were saying is that the wyvern stake blast as a mechanic is not necessarily bad if you look at it on paper, but in practice, it attaches to anything. You hit the head, it attaches to a wing, and now you are obligated to be hitting the wing because all of your damage is coming from the WSB. And not only that, but the way Capcom balanced Gunlance was that normally you have a multiplier based on difficulty. So in low rank, you do 1 multiplied by your normal damage for shelling. On high rank, it's 1.05, and in master rank, it's back to 1. And the reason is that they expect the wyvern stake blast to be covering for the 1.1.
No.
It's heat gauge 2.0 where they're nerfing your damage because they given you a tool to give you back to normal damage, and it's like, fucking thanks, Capcom.
So our options were we can fix the collision on wyvern stake blast, which would take hundreds of hours of testing collision detection code and that hell, because not even Capcom likes to touch that thing, as evidenced by how
we can see that.
That's how they patch a lot of shit, which was just make it have a bigger hitbox so it's harder to miss instead of properly making collisions be detected. So we removed the wyvern stake blast, and the decision was to remove the wyvern stake blast and add the damage for the moves that would be affected by it.
Yeah, like your
so that on average you're dealing the same amount of damage, but you no longer have to do the wyvern stake blast.
Which is huge. It makes Gunlance feel so much more smooth.
I can't wait. I need to do a few more runs with the Crimson Vitalis run. Needs to do 2 more runs, and then I can jump into Ice and have all my.
You should definitely give it a try, because I've gotten a whole playthrough from base game all the way through Iceborne with Gunlance, and it was so much fun.
And Fem did it before we had the cutscene skip in Ice.
Yeah, it was was super fun. I love Gunlance though; it's really good.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that specifically because I don't main Gunlance. It's greatsword, but I like playing every weapon except Palace. But I have a special heart in Gunlance because it's so unique.
It's cool. It sucked forever.
At least as an observer, because I'm not a melee main at all. I basically am unable to play melee weapons.
I'm right there with you. Don't worry.
But I feel what I've seen from runners and players playing Gunlance is that the overall changes were really enjoyed in how it makes the weapon properly come out of its shell. Come out of its shell.
The puns are strong with this one.
And especially for example, now Gunlance does have proper defensive options in terms of the guard points it gets during the reload and how some of the hopes have been changed as well. So we've even removed the move. I forget which one, because it was basically never used and it was something you did only by accident. And it also improved. It's one of the weird reloads. It was one of the reload inputs which was never used, but you could do it by accident, and it was an issue because it replaced something that you did use.
Okay.
Again, the change. I don't know the technical details for Gunlance because it's not the weapon I've been working on. I've mainly been working on. So the responsibilities on Ice are pretty fluid. Basically, we are interested in something, and it's where we are going to be implementing changes. There's stuff that has to be done, and at some point, someone will have to take it. But there's stuff that we gravitate towards in terms of it's what's more natural to each of us because each of us has a different specialty. And for me, most of the things are things that are related to automation. For example, massive changes such as replacing every single quests in the game so that they give different rewards, or automating how we change the strings for the game. A lot of things I've been focusing on ICE have been not directly on things that affect ICE itself, but more that affect how we develop ICE. Making it so that it's easier for us to manage files, making it easier so that we can track what changes we've made and be able to keep track of those things.
Right.
And also, like, most of the time, for example, monster hit zones, I didn't change them myself. That was through a consensus of opinions in terms of where hit zones should be going. But I did make the software that basically takes this spreadsheet and converts it into game files. So now when we want to change hit zone values, we have, like, what you're seeing on the spreadsheet, it's what's it's one-to-one with what's going to be in the game.
It's just that easy. You just change the number on the spreadsheet kind of thing.
Like, a lot of what I've been doing for ICE has always been like that sort of automation, which is making it easier for other people to propose the changes and set them in some easy format, and then I convert them into game files, and we have a way of tracking, like, this is what has changed. Which does mirror the fact that my specialty is partially software development, and it goes into that. But the weapons that I have personal knowledge of what's going on are the gunner weapons, which is bow, light bowgun, and heavy bowgun for stable version, because Femborn is the magical land on experimental. And now I've taken over hammer.
Oh, really? You play hammer?
No, I don't play hammer. I don't play hammer at all. It required someone teaching me how the inputs work and how the combos worked to understand what changes I was implementing.
You should play hammer.
Hammer is so much fun, man. It's especially if you go down the slide, you do the spin to win, and then once it lands, Kosh Claw, and another spin to win. Oh, it's the best feeling ever.
So this is the horror history that hammer, hammer can be fun to play, but it's also one of the most. The slide. Yeah. No, the modding hammer is horrible.
Because
it's really horrible. Because of charge, because Hammer is one of the games where any animation can go into charge and charge can go into any animation. And the way they implement it is like there's a separate action called idle to run, and there's charge idle to run. There's charge run to idle. There's charge spin. There's charge sliding into idle. There's charge sliding into run.
So
there's
like
jumping into sliding.
Has to touch 9 different files.
Like every single combination of actions is represented as a simple action. Like every single transition that charge can do is a separate action. And the problem is not that. The problem is in the files, there's only one animation tied to that. So if you change that animation, you're changing it for everything else. So when you're adding actions, you have to be super careful and you have to be super thorough testing everything, because you changed the animation for this one move. Are you sure? Because you see, if you jump from a cliff and then you land, and when you land, you release a charge, this other animation will play, because the game decided that your new animation should also apply to that.
That sounds like a very annoying game to
It is misery. And then when I was almost done with the changes was when Moon Bunny told me, "Have you tested it on multiplayer?" And that's where I began crying, because when you're editing files, things go normally, like they normally go well, because with ICE everyone has the same files. But when you're writing into memory through plugins, when you're editing the game code itself, is where the changes you make on your side don't necessarily have to go into the other side. And as a result, you get weird issues with, like, you see one animation and the other player is seeing a different animation.
Is that much of a big deal though? Like,
yes, because if the player in the other animation goes through collisions or interacts with something you've done, like if you try to catapult him and he's doing the animation where he, like, for a concrete example, I implemented the Rise. In Rise, if you power charge while you're already power charged, instead of like just doing the animation again, you do a dash forward, which converts your power charge into a charge level 3. Okay. So you lose the power charge state, but you instantly go to level 3. And that allows you to go into the spinning combo, and from the spinning combo, then you can go into Big Bang 4 in Rise.
Okay.
I implemented the spinning combo into Big Bang 4 easily. That one already worked fine. But making it so that power charging while you're already power charged, that's the dash, has to be done through code. And one of the issues is that the replacement, the thing I replaced, is also used for the animation when you're running in charge and go to idle. Like if you're running in charge mode and then you stop, the animation, the animation it plays when you're stopping is the same animation I replaced. So another input beyond power charging, while power charge was stopping running would cause that animation to play. And I found a way to actually cancel it happening through code. But the issue of doing that is that it only cancels it for you. So if you play with another Hammer player and they're running and they stop running, in their screen they stop running normally. But in your screen, it would show us if they had done the charge move.
Oh,
and
so
the issue
desync super hard.
Yeah, and the issue was if you do a move like, for example, the number one, it looks wrong, and we've reached the point where Ice has to kind of look presentable. Like it's not gonna be like we're not yet at the point where we want like professional development level, but we're at the point where we don't want like we don't want to look like Chinese mods. Like,
right.
We want to look like like if we have like Moon Bunny and Aradi in the name list of the mod, like we want the quality to reflect the level of modding that goes on.
Okay.
And the other issue is that if someone does something like SwitchX launching you, and you launch, and like in your screen the launch should connect because he's forward, but on their screen it shouldn't connect. That does cause a desync, and desyncs are like unacceptable at that point.
Okay.
Like we have the multiplayer isolator for a reason.
Yeah.
And solving that issue is something that I'm still working on, for example, and it's been a super headache because of how finicky Hammer is with animations and shit, because it reuses so much stuff. Or like one thing is mapped to 20 once it's loaded by the game, and that's not something that you can control easily because it goes beyond files. It's such a cursed weapon, precisely because of the ability to like you can spin and you can charge and you can do all of these things from charge in the code.
It sounds like it's just more of a Capcom's animation problems, because a lot of problems seem to come from the way they handle their animation files.
It's because of how unique Hammer is, because there's very few weapons in the game where you get this ability to go into this different state. Like if you think about charge in terms of gameplay, the moment you start charging, your run animation changes. But charge itself it's not like a move that you execute and it plays an animation. It's an animation that's continuously playing a different state. No other weapon really gets like the level of flexibility
so they have, like,
when they do this.
Different movesets, but are mirrored depending on charge level, and so you have charged different things with all the other normal animations.
Yeah, like if you think about cases where that happens, like for example, Heavy Bowgun, when you go into Wyvern Heart, it's a different animation, you're like stuck into there. But there's only one thing you can do while you're in Wyvern Heart, which is shoot, or the roll. For Hammer, like your entire combos are still available to you. You can still roll, you can jump from a cliff, whatnot, and that's a state you can toggle in and out instantly. Like you can charge in and you can charge out by releasing the trigger.
Mm-hmm. And it's something to think about when people say how complex Hammer is on the back end, because all we're doing on the game, we're just unga bunga. All right, there we go. And then hearing that there's so many files that are activating all at the same time is kind of interesting seeing the back end of that, because we just never thought it was going to be that complex. We just want to spin for the win, and that's all we want to do. So it's nice hearing that.
That was one of the reasons I even select Hammer, because like how complex can this thing be flawless? I mean, it's like Ungabunga, and then I got Ungabunga'd by the game code.
You got carded by the game codes, I see.
Yeah, Ice is crazy. Before we wrap up though, so Astrid, did you watch the Nintendo Direct that came out the other day?
Yep, I watched the Nintendo Direct. Kirby free. So one of my childhood dreams, like since I was like 6 years old, was to see Kirby in 3D. And the closest I got to that was like Kirby 64. Mm-hmm. Being able to see like Kirby go 3D in a post-up. Have you seen the Kirby trailer?
Yeah, I did actually. It's like Mario Odyssey, but Kirby. I love it.
It's post-apocalyptic Kirby in 3D. Like,
yeah, that looks good.
For me, that's the biggest hype of the like triangle strategy is gonna be cool and whatnot, because it's my RPG cocaine.
My problem with triangle strategy is that the animations, like for the sprites and stuff, are shit. It's just like Octopath Traveler. Like the art is good, but the actual animations that go on with the sprites is fucking awful. It's just not
fine. I just won my Final Fantasy Tactics
I just want to like a Final. But come on, you remember Final Fantasy Tactics? The animations they did with all the cutscenes and with the sprite work was really good, especially back then. But like now, we get like really super basic animations with these shitty sprites. Yeah, there's better shadows and lighting, and some of the stuff looks okay. But the actual character animations are terrible.
I don't mind it as much. I just want my tactical RPG fix.
I mean, that's fair. I want to play it too, but I just like that's my big gripe.
Fam, keep in mind that I play games that look like they were made in 1988 just to get my tactical RPG fix.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. I mean, I recently played Final Fantasy Tactics, you know, like last year. I fucking replayed it as nothing but Ramza with a Beastmaster tree. Yeah. But that's fair. Triangle Strategy, I played the demo. It's good. I was just hoping the sprites would improve.
But again, the real hype is Kirby 3D.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Kirby 3D is going to be game of the year.
Crystal Shards is my favorite Kirby game. It was actually the last Kirby game I was actually hyped for. I loved Crystal Shards. But yeah, a new Kirby that's 3D. Oh my god, I cannot fucking wait.
I can tell which guys, what day you guys can be calling off for work that day. If.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you had seen during any of the Nintendo stuff that, you know, looked appealing besides, you know, the Rise stuff, which were already like, whatever.
I mean, the Rise stuff, I'm gonna complain and whine that it looks like super edgy and it's pointless, but I'm still gonna buy Rise when it launches on PC.
We're still gonna buy it.
We're still gonna buy it.
We'll be there day one.
Yep.
We'll be bitching.
We'll be complaining that we didn't get an early copy. We'll be playing it at launch, and we'll be complaining the entire time. Still gonna play it.
We're not even playing Rise and we're still complaining.
On my defense, I did play Rise. I played Rise until Valstruck. I killed Valstruck one time and I swore off Rise.
Yeah, same.
Rise is just a game that the gameplay, the weapons I play no longer work, and the only weapon, I like Switch X on Rise, I guess, but it's not enough to like keep it playing. And there's
not enough to keep you playing. Like,
there's no.
And actually, and speedrunning in Rise is fucking bullshit because the way the small monster AI works is dumb as shit, and I hate it, and I can't play it.
And you know what? One way we can look at it is not really all that bad because now we can play other games because Rise is.
Well, that's fine. Because we were in that loop for a little bit, for like 4 years, where it's like there was always adding content and dragging you back to Monster Hunter, and then they would release a new game, and then just slowly trickle you content. And if you felt like you always had to keep coming back to play Monster Hunter, because that's how fucking Monster Hunter players are, and now we're finally in this lull, we're like, okay, let's stop playing Monster Hunter for a bit. And that's what most of Monster Hunter streamers and players are doing. They're playing other games, then here and there they'll play like a Monster Hunter, but it's not like their lifestyle.
The main game.
Yeah.
That is such a first world problem. Like, we've had this game for so long, and finally we have shit, so we can do something else.
We're free! No, and I just finished Bloodborne last night, so that was a lot of fun. I never played Bloodborne before, so. But as far as the Nintendo one, I'm still excited for the Metroid game, the Castlevania style.
My problem with Dread is that it looks like it's literally the same game as Metroid 2 Remake on the 3DS, but with more stuff. And that's fine, because I liked it, but that game only lasted like 6 hours for me. And I feel like we're going to get a game like that where it's a good Metroid game, but we're going to play it for like 6 hours. But now it costs twice as much as it did on the 3DS. So you're going to pay $60 for a game that's going to last 6 hours. So, and you're like, okay, well, that's it.
We're buying games we don't like. We're going to be getting the DLC for Rise. We're going to get a Metroid that we're probably not going to like. Kirby gets a pass. And then we're gonna play.
You're gonna like Dread. It's just that you're not gonna feel that it's worth your money.
I have to count the amount of hours I'm playing in the game and the cost of the game. I'm like, is it worth it? Yeah, Dread's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be a bad game.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good game. Dread looks good. I like the play style of Metroid 2. I'm just annoyed that I have to pay twice as much as I did for it on the 3DS because it's gonna look exactly the same.
I mean, you don't, strictly speaking, have to pay, but
that's true. I don't. But that's also talking to a person who bought Rise 3 times, so.
Ooh. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
That was a bad investment.
Yeah. Even though I have a hack Switch, I did buy it 3 times.
Yeah. Feel sorry for that guy.
You're gonna buy it 4 times, because you're gonna get it on PC as well.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be very annoyed when there are no mods on PC.
Yeah.
And then
so that's the other thing I was actually gonna ask. So, because it's a totally different engine, like modding for Rise probably isn't going to happen anytime soon, right?
Modding for Rise already happened in that.
Well, yeah, Arati's got some mods for it, but I mean, like some actual serious things.
I don't think it's cycling. Like, it's not because of the technological complexity of Rise.
It's just relearning a new engine, right?
Yeah, it's you have to do everything again for a new engine. And on one hand, one of the discussions that has been had is that it's going to be Ray engine in the future. So everything you make for Rise is still going to be valid for the next game. So it's not like you're going to have to remake everything from scratch for Monster Hunter 6. But on the other hand, like a lot of it is probably going to be remade because the B team codes like shit and their file formats are garbage. So anything that's not a visual format or an audio format is going to change. And on one hand, like, okay, audio and visual formats are kind of like, audio formats no, but visual formats are one of the things that I've most covered. Mm-hmm. And I've actually already written like a texture converter for Rise, and I was looking into the models for Rise. But what happened with the models, for example, was that I was working on them for like a week, and then I went like, I hate Rise. I don't enjoy this game anymore. Why am I modding it?
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say that. So to add to the list of things we don't like about Rise, it's so bad that it's not even worth modding.
Yeah, and that was my complaint too. Like, well, not really a complaint, but my concern when the PC version came out. Like, is anyone gonna care? Because a lot of people I've been talking to are like, "Oh yeah, well, PC version will have mods and stuff." I'm like, maybe not, because nobody wants to fucking play Rise, and nobody wants to mod Rise. It's like, so, like, is anyone gonna care when Sunbreak comes out? Because I don't know. I'm sure people will play it. We're all gonna play it.
Yeah.
But like on the Switch is gonna run like shit. And like the PC version, depending on if they're using de novo and other shit, is gonna run like shit too, just like Iceborne did.
De novo didn't cause a performance problems on Iceborne. Capcom caused a performance problems on Iceborne. Iceborne has a lot of code, which is horrible.
Yeah, we're checking your free element every fucking frame.
Yeah, and like the novo doesn't help, but I don't know. It's like if you already have a gigantic pile of trash with tires and shit, and someone set it on fire. Mm-hmm. On one hand, someone set it on fire, but on the other hand, you had a gigantic pile of trash there from the beginning, so it's kind of your fault.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I mean, looking forward to stuff, but at the same time, not so much. But outside of Triangle Strategy and the obvious Omega Game of the Year, Kirby, was there anything else in like the Nintendo Direct that caught anyone's interest at all?
Bayonetta, even though it's gonna be run like shit on Switch.
There's no way the Switch is gonna run Bayonetta. I don't care what they showed, it's not gonna run.
It's gonna try its heart out, all right? It's gonna try its little heart out to run Bayonetta, and that's when Switches will burn up.
Well, my theory is that the game will release in winter, so the main use for Bayonetta is gonna be keeping your home warm.
We're gonna put the Switch in the fireplace. That's your Yule log.
Bayonetta is a game I can appreciate why people like it. I can say like it's well designed, but I personally don't like it.
Right, it's not my kind. I don't like that kind of style game like Devil May Cry, God of War, Bayonetta. They're all kind of play similar. Not really my cup of tea, but I appreciate them from what they are, and it looks good. Yeah. Like it looks like a great game, just not for me. But at the same time, I'm also like, there's no way the Switch can handle that.
No, we probably saw that out of a PC, not a Switch.
Nintendo using Ryujinx to make their
directs. Yeah, right. I wouldn't be surprised if they had just some random shit, or they just had the cutscenes on the PC and like, yeah, we'll put these out for the demos. Because there's literally, if Rise can't even run at 20 frames, there's no way that Bayonetta game's gonna run. Like,
to be fair, Rise is made by Capcom. Rise is made by Capcom. Keep that in mind.
True. Also true. I get that. But Bayonetta looks really good, and I just don't think the Switch can handle that kind of nonsense.
No, some of the effects look like really optimizable if you like do tricks, and I feel like a lot of Bayonetta is gonna be like clever tricks so that they look nice. But if you look under the hood, you realize like this is not special effects. This is just a model.
Yeah,
okay.
We don't get bait and switch.
And I have some faith in Platinum, because Bayonetta is really special as a franchise in that Nintendo brought it back from the dead through sheer cash, and we know for a fact that Nintendo has financial interest in Bayonetta. So if there's anyone that's getting like the Nintendo engineers dropping from the ceiling with rappels to optimize their code, it's gonna be Platinum with Bayonetta.
Well, because let's keep in mind that game is not the only game from Platinum on the Switch. There's another game from Platinum on the Switch.
What was that?
Astral Chains.
Oh yeah, I
right.
haven't played Astral Chains yet.
I have played Astral Chains. Do you want to buy my copy, fam?
Does it run good? Wait, well, hold on. Why'd you offer that?
Because I want to get rid of it. I don't like Astral Chain.
Oh.
I bought it day one because I was like, this looks
good.
This looks interesting. This looks good. And then it was like, no, this is not what I want to play. I don't know. I'm not enjoying this. This does not spark joy.
I thought it was gonna be good.
It looks good. So what's your critic on that? So why did it not spark joy?
I just don't enjoy the gameplay. At some point, the gameplay becomes tortuous. Like that game makes me annoyed. It's like there's things where Platinum does good, which is like the difficulty in combat and the feeling of satisfaction when you beat a challenge. Yeah. In Astral Chain, when you beat a challenge, you don't feel satisfaction. You feel hate at yourself for spending so much time in the encounter.
Oh, wow.
So you don't get that dopamine rush?
You don't get you get the frustration, but you don't get dopamine. It's just frustration. Wow. And the game is really long, and there's exploration aspects, and the exploration aspects are horrendous. And the game just drags on and on. And when you get to the final part, which is just combat challenges, the combat challenges still drag on and on. And because they become like, you die in one hit. So it becomes like, okay, you have to clear like 100 waves without getting hit. Good luck. And in Bayonetta, there's like one place where that happens. In Astral Chain, the entire post-game is that, and the entire game is the story dragging on. So as a result, the game is really unenjoyable. And the combat doesn't really work as you would expect because the big numbers are in moves that don't feel satisfying. So when you're playing through the story, you go like, this looks super cool, and you go ora, and then you check the numbers, and the ora combat does no damage. Yeah.
Okay, so that is horrible. So Bayonetta, right? Looking forward to that.
Aster, did you play Deus Ex Machina?
I've played Deus Ex, yeah.
Or Ex Machina? Sorry, just Ex Machina.
Wait.
It was the Armored Core game for the Switch?
Oh, no.
Okay. I was just curious if anyone else had played it.
Wait, Armored Core?
You ever played Armored Core from FromSoft?
I know Armored Core. I love Armored Core. I love mech games.
Yeah, I love mech games too. So Ex Machina came out on the Switch like 2 years ago, which is literally, it's Armored Core. You look at the mechs, it's fucking Armored Core. Plays like Armored Core. It's Armored Core. I just didn't know if you had played it on the Switch.
No, and I now want to play it.
I put about 110 hours into it.
Oh my god.
Which isn't a lot for me. I really get.
Oh, it's on Steam.
What?
Yeah, it's on Steam.
Let's all play it. So
hold on. I'm googling this, or I'm seeing.
There it is. I see it in chat.
and it's 50% off.
Oh,
we're right back. There it is.
And you can get all of the DLC for 60% off as well.
God bless Steam.
Wait, hold on.
God bless
No, that's Deus Ex. I'm not seeing it on Steam.
That's right.
I pasted the link, fam.
I don't think you can click out, can you?
No.
He's strapped.
He's strapped in there, man. You're in for the long ride.
Yeah, because I'm recording all the camera stuff. Oh, Daemon Ex Machina. That's what it is. Okay. Oh, it is. And it is half off. Okay, so yeah, this is the Armored Core game that I had played a lot when I was traveling through Europe. And I didn't know if you had played on the Switch, but it's literally Armored Core. It's made by a bunch of people who were from the original Armored Core team. And I liked the game, and it actually ran really well on the Switch. My only complaint was that it was too easy. I didn't have any challenges really in the game at all. I'm not sure if there's mods or DLC and shit for the Steam release, but I did not know it was on the Steam. So if you like mech games, why aren't you playing Mech Warrior with me?
Because the amount of time that Mech Warrior demands would mean that I would no longer be able to do anything else with my life.
You can play Mech Warrior with me.
Oh, come on.
Okay, but I just didn't know if you had played Daemon X Machina. I don't think they're getting a sequel or anything, but I was just I don't know why I brought it up originally. It was a Switch game that ran relatively well, and I don't know if you felt like Astral Chain was pretty shitty, then Daemon X Machina might be more up your alley.
Yeah.
I am now buying Demon Machina on PC.
I'm sorry. I
Like,
will refund you if you don't like it.
I mean, if I don't like it, I can make Steam refund me.
That's true. I had a good time with it. Like I said, I put like 100 hours into it, so.
If you really hate it, you can send that to a friend of me and just send that game to them. Like, here, you'll be miserable too.
Yeah.
Just for the record, if Mumbani is watching this, if I ever stop like updating content for Ice, this is why.
You can
blame
blame
him.
Well, that or you should come
blame
play
that guy.
MechWarrior, because MechWarrior is so if you like big stompy robot. Well, MechWarrior is slow stompy robots. Like Daemon X Machina is like the Armored Core dash canceling fucking super anime mech games where you're flying around. BattleTech and MechWarrior is like I'm a really fucking slow giant stompy robot.
Did you play the GameCube game Custom Robo?
I love Custom Robo. Custom Robo was so good. I fucking love Custom Robo. There's not another one. And it sucks because the fucking Ray MK3 model is in Smashes and Assist Trophy. I'm like, can we get a new Custom Robo game? I love Custom Robo.
That game was so much fun, and then it became so abusable.
Oh yeah, because once you get like
so
illegal weapons
bad.
and shit, like oh my god, it's so broken. But I still love Custom Robo. And like the DS one was not too bad either. But
yeah. But like the GameCube one is just special in how good. Yeah.
I missed that. I love Custom Robo. Can we get a new Custom Robo? That's what I want.
We can add custom Robo models to world.
Don't tell me that, Aster.
And
don't give
we can make.
Don't do that. Don't give me hope.
We can make custom Robo weapons. We can replace Bogan with custom.
I was gonna say I can get like a Ray MK2 model as a character armor, and then I could just get like a fucking ray gun and shit as like my bow gun.
And you replace the ammo with with the custom Robo weapons.
Why not? Because why fucking not?
It's modding.
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
We can do whatever we want. Anyway, we should wrap this up before we get in too far. We're like 2.5 hours in, so.
Oh, that was fast.
Yeah, we kind of blew through this. So thank you, Aster, for hanging around. I appreciate it. It's always good talking to you, man. Congrats on moving over to the Netherlands. And thank you again, Ramos, for coming in and being a guest host, because Jin's always busy these days. So,
no worries.
I appreciate it, guys. It's been
happy to be here.
Jin is always missing or dead.
Yeah, or he's dead. That happens too. So.
Thanks for having me again. Third time the charm.
Anytime, Aster. It's always fun talking to you, man. Okay, well, I'm going to close it up now. So thanks, everyone, for watching, and thanks, you guys, for coming by. And we'll get a peace out of here.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.